Okay, so firstly, members, are we happy to adopt the revised agenda and table items and defer the session with Hospitality Ulster, Hotels Federation and Food to Go in light of the circumstances that have taken place? Members content? Okay. We reschedule it then for the 4th of March. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, apologies then we have from David Honeyford and Kate Nicholl should be here shortly. If I could firstly welcome our new Vice Chair, Diane Forsyth, to the committee, and can I pass on my thanks and commiserations to Gemma, who I read in papers is leaving us. A number of months was enough for you, Gemma, but no, you haven't.
Yeah, don't take it personally.
No, not at all. Gemma, thank you for being on the committee and particularly for your focus on the tourism element of your constituency and for Manus South Tyrone. It's been very, very welcome. So thank you, and I wish you the best of luck in your new endeavours. Item 3.1, members in table papers, is a letter to myself from the Permanent Secretary in respect of the evidence session last week. The Permanent Secretary has outlined his disappointment with me for outlining the concerns of the committee in relation to the evidence session that we had last week. My view is that the disappointment was not just shared by me but by colleagues from across the political spectrum. However, as chair, I'm happy to take his criticism. The Permanent Secretary is always welcome before this committee at any stage if he wants to come along. So I trust him and his office are listening, so I'm sure the committee would be delighted to welcome along at any point.
Yep.
I would maybe make that a proposal that we invite the Permanent Secretary to come along.
Yep.
You know, he's obviously exercised to respond, so more than welcome to come to the committee. I would propose that.
Happy to second
Is that agreed, members? Okay. Item 3.2, Good Jobs Bill. There's a tabled response from the Minister on the timing of the introduction of the Good Jobs Employment Rights Bill and the anticipated trade union content. As members are aware, in order for the Industrial Court to accept an application for trade union recognition, the employer must employ at least 21 workers or employees. The Way Forward document last April indicated that there was to be a change to be included within this bill, that businesses with 11 or more workers or employees, this would have probably doubled the number of businesses where employees or workers could have sought trade union recognition. It appears in the letter from the Minister that this change will no longer be included in the bill, thus significantly altering the impact on these aspects of the bill. Are members content that we just seek clarity from the Minister on that, if that's a new position?
Sure. So she's essentially saying that that part of the bill has been dropped altogether.
So if you have a look in the letter, the committee had agreed last week just in relation to theme C to try and see what policy decisions had been made, so or would be made. The Minister's outlined in her response just the 3 paragraphs, so right of access, removal of 12-week limitation and reduction in administration associated with trade union balloting and notice requirements. So there's no mention of the employee number requirement just within that letter, so it was just if members are content that we seek clarity from the Minister.
No problem.
Yeah. Chair, just on that as well, I suppose probably many of us around the table, members, have been talking to the trade unions and they are quite keen to see the contents of the bill, but they're seeking, you know, our support, and it's really, really difficult. We really need to know what is in this part. Well, we need to know what's in the whole of the bill, but we need to know what the intention and the pathway forward for this, because it's really difficult to engage with no understanding of the actual content. We have an idea, but even through that letter we see that things have changed.
Yes.
So we really need as soon as possible to see that bill so that we as a committee can get to work.
Okay, colleagues, content? We've then moved to draft minutes then. Members, which are at page 7. Members content, I sound those as a true and accurate reflection. Agreed, okay. Matters arising, anything members wish to raise at this stage? If not, we'll then move to item number 6, which is RHI closure of non-domestic scheme bill agreement of report. The committee stage of the bill must conclude on the 27th of February 2026. The committee has deliberated on the clauses of the bill, indicated that it did not wish to bring forward any amendments. The committee stage will be asked to consider its report on the committee stage of the bill. If I note members' correspondence from the department on the bill and table items on DFE's plan for unspent AME. So think it's useful, colleagues, just for members who may not have had a chance to have a look at that letter. So that is at page number 12 of tabled items. So just the important one on this is to say that decisions on future use of residual AMI, i.e. so it's going to be about 16 million unused each year, are not straightforward. Treasury rule requires that any future arrangements to be comparable with the use of renewable heat AMI funding elsewhere. In practical terms, this places constraints on the type of intervention that could be supported, with any future approach needing to be demand-led and, importantly, non-domestic and based on renewable heat production rather than on capital grant funding support. So I know there had been some discussion with colleagues in the department when they'd been here that some of that unutilised AMI may have been used for a domestic support scheme, but this is for the first time the department are confirming that that cannot be used for that, and that any scheme has to be non-domestic, demand-led. So it's just an interesting development. Colleagues had raised with departmental officials previously that we would encourage them as a matter of urgency to bring forward projects that would both satisfy the requirements of the policy and get Treasury funding. So hopefully the department can do that. Are members content with that response? Okay, then if they are, we'll hand over to you, Peter.
So members, if you care to turn to page 20 of your meeting pack. So this is the committee stage report for the RHI Closure and Non-Domestic Scheme Bill committee stage. So what I'm just going to do is, I'm conscious there's a new member in, but anyway, what we're going to do is just go through each of the paragraphs and just ask you if you are content. So the first set of paragraphs is the background to the bill, which is at page 24 to 28 of your packs. If I could ask members if they are content with those as drafted.
Great.
Yeah.
Very much. Then at page 29 we have the committee approach. This is what we did. I can ask again if members are content with that as drafted.
Great.
Okay, so then we get to consideration of the bill. That's from page 30 to page 38. So just draw your attention in particular to pages 32 to 33. This was information which was just provided to me by the department really quite recently. What it is, it's a worked example of how the payments would actually work. Now again, this is related to the banding, the historic levels of usage, and they give a particular example of a poultry farmer with a 99 kilowatt boiler. So most boilers are 99 kilowatts. And what that shows you is that at the particular bands, how much would they actually get compared to sort of previously. So again, those are numbers which I had not seen before, but it's just to ask members if they are therefore content with that section of the bill, which is from pages 30 to 38.
Great.
Thank you. Then at page 39 we have the clause by clause section, very short. Can I ask if members content with that as drafted?
Great.
Then the appendices are at page 40. Again, can I ask if members are content with that as drafted?
Great.
And finally, so the executive summary and title are at page 23. If that is, can I ask that as agreed, Chairperson?
Agreed.
Great.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. Are members content for the report to be published as a sixth report of the mandate? Is that agreed?
Great.
Thank you. And committee would be content to include an extract from today's minutes in the report. Members agreed?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We now move then, members, to item number 7, which is Tourism Northern Ireland and Tourism Ireland, extension of marketing brands to Northern Ireland. The committee will now hear evidence from representatives from Tourism Northern Ireland and Tourism Ireland, and we have written evidence from Fáilte Ireland. Delighted to welcome Emer Callahan, who's the interim head of marketing at Tourism Northern Ireland, David Roberts, Director of Strategic Development at Tourism Northern Ireland, and Michael Wickham-Moriarty, Director of Business Operations at Tourism Ireland. Colleagues, you're all very welcome, and I'll hand over to you at this stage.
Morning, Chair. Morning, members, and thank you for inviting Tourism NI and Tourism Ireland to attend the committee this morning. I will give a brief statement on behalf of Tourism NI, with Michael then providing an overview for Tourism Ireland. By way of introduction, my role at Tourism NI spans industry support, the development of visitor accommodation and experiences, regions and investment in quality and standards. I'm joined by Emer Callahan, Interim Director of Marketing at Tourism NI, and Emer's team lead a broad suite of consumer marketing, PR and communications activities, as well as engagement with the travel trade and work to develop key segments such as business, tourism and golf. On my right is Wickham-Moriarty, who oversees all of Tourism Ireland's business operations, including its engagement with stakeholders in Northern Ireland and its work on sustainable tourism. So the committee is asked today to discuss marketing brands. So for us, the starting point is the Minister's 10-year vision and action plan, which seeks to grow spend from overnight visitors in Northern Ireland to £2 billion by 2035. And achieving that target will require significant growth in spend, both from overseas visitors as well as the visitors from the island of Ireland. And in practice, it involves extensive all-island collaboration between the tourism agencies and a focus on those types of visitors and segments which we know are most likely to visit NI. And this collaboration is reflected in the emerging corporate plans for both Tourism NI and Tourism Ireland. So I'd like to briefly set out the context for our marketing activities in the Ireland's Hidden Heartlands brand licensing agreement. In a very competitive landscape, achieving brand standout is really challenging. So Tourism NI and Tourism Ireland regularly test brand awareness with consumers, and we adjust our marketing activities in response to visitor demand and expectations. Tourism Ireland's new global campaign, Ireland Goes Beyond, celebrates the island of Ireland going beyond people's expectations of a holiday experience by creating memorable connections with the people in the place. And Michael will expand on Tourism Ireland's work on that in a second. And this approach strongly aligns with Northern Ireland Embrace a Giant Spirit brand led by Tourism NI, which aims to share the world-renowned giant spirit of Northern Ireland and draw out that giant spirit in our visitors. And the focus for us is really on authentic culture, warm hospitality and breathtaking landscapes with a strong emphasis on sustainability and responsible travel. The licensing agreement for Ireland's Hidden Heartlands gives Fermanagh tourism businesses the opportunity presented by both Ireland's Hidden Heartlands and the Embrace a Giant Spirit to promote their offer both on the island of Ireland and overseas. And it really reflects a specific market-led opportunity to extend visitor stays and deliver higher levels of economic benefit. And in that vein, Tourism NI launched an additional Ireland's Hidden Heartland campaign last week, and we've seen a high level of interest amongst Fermanagh tourism businesses to get involved. And over the next few months, Tourism Ireland and ourselves will be working closely together to optimise the opportunities which the agreement provides. I'm happy to take any questions that members may have, but in the meantime I'll hand over to Michael from Tourism Ireland. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Chair. Honourable members, thank you for inviting Tourism Ireland to join the committee this morning, along with our colleagues from Tourism Northern Ireland. My name is Michael Wickham-Moriarty and I work as the Director of Business Operations at Tourism Ireland. This is my first time to appear before an Assembly committee, and as a public body serving the people and communities of Northern Ireland, I'm glad to be able to engage with this committee and you as public representatives. Our remit in Tourism Ireland is to increase the number and value of overseas tourists coming to the island of Ireland and to support Northern Ireland to reach its tourism potential. While we want to grow visitor number and spend in all parts of Northern Ireland, we don't just measure success by the number of visitors and level of spend. In Tourism Ireland, we seek to attract visitors with value-adding tourism traits. These are visitors who will spend more, who will stay longer, who will travel across regions and seasons, and who have a low environmental and community impact relative to their spend. Fermanagh is beautiful. I'm a little biased. I grew up about 8 miles outside of Fermanagh, but Fermanagh is something of a hidden treasure compared to some other parts of Northern Ireland, which are more frequently visited by overseas tourists. So growing the number of overseas visitors travelling to Fermanagh helps to spread the economic benefit of tourism across Northern Ireland. The lakelands are suitable for the sort of outdoor adventure that have low carbon impact and connect international visitors with their stunning landscapes. The agreement between Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland to license the use of Ireland Hidden Heartland brand for Fermanagh provides additional opportunities for us in Tourism Ireland to promote Fermanagh as a destination to overseas tourists. We use this opportunity alongside existing assets and brands available in Northern Ireland. Fermanagh and Ireland's Hidden Heartlands will feature in Tourism Ireland's global campaign, Ireland Unrushed, in May 2026. The campaign will build on the success of our Ireland Unrushed campaign last year, which was live across over 13 markets in June 2025, showcasing new ways for overseas holiday makers to explore the island and to take time to enjoy our scenery, culture, heritage more deeply. The campaign includes videos highlighting breathtaking landscapes and slow tourism activity, including a new Shannon Earn video. Based on the insight that 80% of overseas visitors who choose non-sun holidays are seeking a sense of exploration on their trips, the campaign showcased enjoyable journeys, highlighting experiences in nature and in local communities. In early testing, the campaign achieved a persuasion score of over 90%, and this is a measure of the ability to drive change in consumer consideration for the island of Ireland. In November last, Tourism Ireland's annual publicity workshop was held in Fermanagh. This gave our publicity teams, both on the Island of Ireland and those from our markets offices around the world, an opportunity to familiarise themselves with the fantastic tourism product in the area. Building from this, in 2026, Tourism Ireland has exciting publicity plans for Fermanagh and Ireland's Hidden Heartlands. For example, in collaboration with Tourism Northern Ireland and Fáilte Ireland, we're arranging a group press trip to the area with 10 international media representatives expected to participate. We will also be able to continue to showcase the expanded region through individual media visits throughout the year. Tourism Ireland promotes growth at scale by working with strategic partners. Strengthening partnerships and supporting the international travel trade and the local tourism industry in doing business together are key to long-term growth and sustainability in the sector. Throughout the year, Tourism Ireland works with Northern Ireland businesses overseas. As you know, no one sells an area like a local, and we provide important opportunities for these businesses. For example, 60 tourism partners, including Beleg Pottery Visitor Centre, the Boatyard Distillery, Mourne Mountains and Ringagullion, Titanic Belfast and more, took part in Tourism Ireland's annual Flavours of Ireland business-to-business workshop in London last October, connecting top global inbound tour operators who deliver business from all over the world. While Tourism Ireland board members are appointed evenly by the two ministers, North and South, and our board meetings are held in locations across the island, Fermanagh does feature prominently at board level. You may be aware that our chairman, Christopher Brooke, is a Fermanagh native and a Fermanagh tourism operator. And last month, following the nomination by the Minister for the Economy, the North-South Ministerial Council appointed Barry Flanagan of Water Taxis to the Tourism Ireland board. Our most recent board meeting took place in Fermanagh in December, and the board took the opportunity to meet with local tourism stakeholders and learn more about the tourism product that Fermanagh has to offer through a familiarisation visit to the Boatyard Distillery. I'm confident in saying that Tourism Ireland is particularly well attuned to all Fermanagh has to offer. That's what I wanted to cover concerning Tourism Ireland and Fermanagh as part of my opening statement. But Chair, if you want me to, I could take some more time to talk more widely about the distinction and roles between Tourism Ireland, Tourism Northern Ireland and Fáilte Ireland, as well as Tourism Ireland's recent work and performance overall concerning tourism for Northern Ireland. Tourism Ireland is the organisation responsible for marketing the island of Ireland overseas. As you know, we were established as one of the 6 areas of cooperation under the framework of the Belfast Agreement of Good Friday 1998. And as I said earlier, our principal objective is to increase tourism to the island of Ireland and to support Northern Ireland to achieve its tourism potential. Tourism Ireland is active in 15 key markets across Great Britain, North America, mainland Europe and Australia. At times, Tourism Ireland, Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland will collaborate on strategic projects to improve the performance of tourism to and across the island of Ireland, driving economic and community benefits. Tourism Northern Ireland and Fáilte Ireland are responsible for tourism development in their respective jurisdictions and marketing on the island, and Tourism Ireland is responsible for overseas marketing. In 2024, Northern Ireland welcomed 2 million overseas visitors, an increase of 3% in 2023 figures, with visitor numbers from Britain remaining stable and visitors from other overseas markets growing by 12%. Overseas visitors contributed £633 million to the Northern Ireland economy in 2024. Tourism supports around 70,000 jobs in Northern Ireland, with 6 out of 10 of those jobs reliant on overseas tourism. In the first 3 quarters of 2025, for which we have NISRA data, Northern Ireland welcomed 1.6 million overseas visitors, an increase of 1% on the same period in 2024, with visitor numbers from Great Britain growing by 4%. Overseas visitors contributed £501 million to the Northern Ireland economy in the first 3 quarters of 2025. Tourism Ireland focuses on helping Northern Ireland to achieve its tourism potential by inspiring visitors and strengthening strategic partnerships. We inspire visitors through our overseas promotional programme, which includes consumer campaigns in 15 overseas markets and seasonal and regional campaigns throughout the year, such as the Home of Halloween campaign and the Ireland on Rush Slow tourism campaign that I talked about earlier. We work closely with influential travel, lifestyle and special interest media in our key markets to build profile for Northern Ireland. Tourism Ireland generated positive publicity for Northern Ireland with a reach of 811 million in 2025. And as an example, following a hugely successful first series, which reached 3.3 million viewers across Great Britain, TV and radio presenter Dermot O'Leary was back in Northern Ireland in August, filming for a second series of Dermot's Taste of Ireland. The 10-part series, produced by Broadcaster Media and supported by the Shared Island Tourism Brand Collaboration Project, will follow Dermot as he explores the Causeway Coastal Route and Wild Atlantic Way, and will be seen by millions of people across Great Britain when it airs on ITV1 and on the streaming service ITVX this spring. Filming took place in Blackhead Lighthouse, Willow and Lower, Glenarm Castle, Ursa Minor Bakery and Brugammon Farm. Dermot also went on a boat trip with Kintra Boat Tours and stayed at the Harbourview Hotel. Also included in the filming itinerary were cooking at Tartrine, sea angling at Ballantroy and a whisky tasting at the Giant's Causeway. Activities including surfing with Longline Surf School and a Muscadin sea salt and hot box sauna experience and cooking lobster at Lear. In long-term studies, Tourism Northern Ireland's marketing return on investment, the spend on marketing in overseas markets has demonstrated an estimated return on investment of 25 to 1. So for every £25, £25 of visitor spend is delivered for every £1 invested. We recently launched Ireland Goes Beyond advertising campaign. The new campaign celebrates how Northern Ireland and the island of Ireland go beyond people's expectations of a holiday experience by creating memorable connections with the people and the place. The campaign will drive over 1.2 billion opportunities to see in 2026. Our publicity activity with top international publications, journalists, content creators, broadcast and streaming channels will drive 550 million opportunities to see Northern Ireland messaging. We will continue to post compelling content to achieve over 500,000 engagements on our social media platforms each month, and we will maintain over 7.5 million followers across our social channels. In 2026, Tourism Ireland will help 12 million people deeply research holidays here on our international website, ireland.com, and we'll optimise this website for generative AI. Air and sea access information is hugely important to Tourism Ireland. As an island destination, there's a proven correlation between access and inbound visitor numbers. Tourism Ireland promotes and supports demand for Northern Ireland through cooperative marketing with air and sea carriers that serve Northern Ireland access ports, including Larne, Belfast City Airport, City of Derry Airport and Belfast International Airport. The details of our 2026 campaigns are currently being finalised. However, we expect to work with various airlines serving Northern Ireland, including British Airways, EasyJet and Logan Air in Great Britain, France and the Netherlands. These campaigns will target a return on investment of over 15 to 1. Our seat capacity to the island of Ireland for the 2025-2026 winter aviation season is scheduled to be 12% higher than the same period last year. Since 2002, international tourism has grown significantly in Northern Ireland. Visitor numbers have risen from 1.5 million to 2 million. Spend has increased from £250 million to around £633 million, and we've seen significant growth in direct air access to Northern Ireland. We know that visitors are motivated by scenery, culture and heritage, and we're investing to showcase how Northern Ireland answers these needs and welcomes overseas visitors. With 58% of all Northern Ireland tourism revenue now coming from overseas, there's an opportunity to help more overseas visitors discover Fermanagh and Ireland's hidden heartlands through targeted marketing investments like those mentioned earlier. We're excited to partner with local businesses and government stakeholders. In conclusion, Tourism Ireland promotes the island of Ireland as a destination of choice. From the River Shannon to Lough Erne, the interconnecting waterways and surrounding countryside offer wonderful, authentic opportunities to see nature, greenery, communities and culture. In 2026, Tourism Ireland will continue to promote Fermanagh and Ireland's Hidden Heartlands brand as part of overseas marketing programme in partnership with industry and agencies on the ground, helping overseas visitors first to choose the island and then explore across the island supports broader benefits for businesses and communities. So thank you for inviting me on behalf of Tourism Ireland, and I'm very happy to answer any questions on this alignment.
Thank you very much, Michael, David and Emer. I'm going to defer to my colleagues who represent Fermanagh first of all, so Gemma.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you so much for coming in. Today is my last Economy Committee meeting, and I'm so glad that it's with Tourism Ireland and Tourism NI. Given that, you know, I'm obviously really happy that Fermanagh is the main focus of today as well, but obviously being from Beleak, one concern that was raised with me from a number of tourism operators was the ETA, the Electronic Travel Authorisation. So I'm just wondering, has that caused any issues that you're aware of, or has it discouraged cross-border international visitors?
If that's okay. I mean, it is a live risk, and we identified it from before its introduction. My predecessor would have spoken to the Westminster Northern Ireland Committee on the issue. We monitor it. Well, firstly, on Ireland.com, we publish advice and information on ETAs for overseas visitors who are planning their trips to Ireland, so that they're well informed and have all the information ahead of planning their visit. We monitor consumer sentiment overseas and engage with businesses, and the impact is modest and minor, but we do continue to monitor it on a monthly and quarterly basis.
And can I just ask, how is it policed, or do you know?
The Home Office provides briefings on this, and I believe there's a change overall this month, and the Home Office have a series of briefings. I'm due to go to a briefing next month about it. My understanding is the most recent changes on the enforcement is actually on carriers between Ireland and the UK, and there hasn't been changes to the enforcement of it on the island of Ireland.
Okay. And given that Fermanagh Lakelands is already a successful tourism destination with international profile, would Tourism Ireland or Tourism Northern Ireland select Fermanagh Lakelands as the first pilot destination stewardship plan?
I think it's one that's going to settle in the mix, and we are sort of looking to develop our approach to destination stewardship, and we've been consulting with councils and other stakeholders just around this approach. So we're due to actually be re-engaging with our board on this in the coming weeks, and then we'd look to be able to sort of communicate how we're going to take that forward. But yes, certainly there's a number of aspects of the Fermanagh offer, the collaboration, amongst businesses and other stakeholders, which would put it in a good position to potentially be part of that initial rollout of destination stewardship.
That's great. That's more good news. And then finally, just with the extension of the Hidden Heartlands, is there any support or advice available to businesses, tourism operating businesses in Fermanagh that you could provide, obviously to get the most out of it?
Absolutely. We have been extensively engaging with the industry there to help the tourism businesses realise this opportunity of both being part of Ireland's Hidden Heartlands, but also availing of the existing supports from Tourism NI and Tourism Ireland. We held an industry briefing at the start of December, which was really well attended by Fermanagh tourism businesses. And since we followed up with industry webinars, we also have a dedicated toolkit online explaining the brand, the values, the attributes, how to use the brand in your advertising, how to use it alongside your own brand, and indeed Northern Ireland Embrace the Giant Spirit. And we've been delighted to see the industry uptake for the campaign. So we've had 35 requests to download the Hidden Heartlands brand, and we've had 25 offers from the industry then to underpin the marketing campaign that's out there at the moment, which has extensive reach. 27 million opportunities to see or hear the campaign across the island of Ireland, and 58% of all adults on the island will see the campaign. So we're really looking forward to hearing from Fermanagh tourism businesses the success of the campaign over the next few weeks.
Yeah, as am I. So thank you very much for that, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gemma. Diana?
Good morning, and you're very welcome to the committee. I'm like Gemma, I'm from Fermanagh in South Tyrone, and thank you very much for your promotion of the area. That was very good to hear, and certainly I support what you've been saying about the beauty of the landscape and the opportunities there. I served as a councillor in Fermanagh Noma District Council for just over 9 years, and have worked a long time in tourism, looking at clustering and looking at how to provide the best packaging and the best itineraries for tourists. And I see here the 7 tourism businesses in the Experience Portfolio Development Programme. They're long-standing successful business, but what can be done to bring new experiences and that increased dwell time, particularly when you want to attract families with activities for young, and that's what I'm hearing all the time, is what activities are there for young children. We have a huge renovation programme going with our leisure centre in Enniskillen. So for activities, there's lots of on-water activities. Can you promote that more? Is there a plan to do that further into the future?
Absolutely. There are a range of experience development initiatives, and obviously our main remit is to get visitors to stay longer and spend more, and crucial to that is having more things for people to do that will connect them into that area. So we would work very closely with Fermanagh Noma District Council and with all the officers there, and also with the local businesses to really help them extend their offer, build out those opportunities. What else can they be doing? We recently held an Innovate workshop workshop in the area, which was primarily around that, you know, okay, you've got a tourism business, you've got experience, what more can you offer, what more can you do? And getting the tourism businesses to work really closely together and to be able to cross-sell each other. So having that really clear link between accommodation and the experiences, to understand that everybody's able to cross-sell. So if a family goes to, like I've done many occasions, going to the Killyhaviland, you know, what else can we do? Can we get out in the water? Can we go for a nice walk? So there's a range of opportunities, and even through the campaign, there's a number of press rotations, social media that are able to pull out all those experiences. So people are really well prepared whenever they're planning their short break as to what to do. So there's lots of initiatives in place and experience development toolkits to help businesses really develop their tourism offering. That would be a key part of our work.
It's essentially the private sector that's doing this investment, and they always say to me, you know, we need capital assistance as well. Is there any form of capital assistance envisaged to grow that?
Yeah, so we are sort of working to develop an overall kind of investment programme, both for visitor experiences and attractions and for accommodation. And it's both those areas are really, you know, pulled out within the Minister's kind of 10-year plan as really kind of key priorities, because I think we do recognise that we do want to be able to sort of support the capital kind of enhancement of some of our experiences. So we're working with DFE colleagues on that at the moment, and we've submitted proposals through the spending review process. So we'd be hopeful that, you know, subject obviously to budget, that we'd be in a position to have some of those kind of new capital programmes come in from the following kind of financial year. I think in the meantime, you know, we're working very closely with Fermanagh and Noma Council on the sort of growth deal kind of plans for the area, obviously, which relate to plans to sort of redevelop Mabalach Caves Visitor Centre, develop some of the kind of further experiences around Loch na Bar, around the kind of boardwalk, and clearly there's further investment now coming through the Shared Island programme as well, which is going to really sort of help to kind of enhance that whole kind of area as a destination. So, as I say, I think there's significant investment coming in, you know, through Shared Island and through the growth deal, but we're keen, as I say, to, you know, be able to kind of enhance that through through capital funding from the department.
Thank you. And if I could, Chair, two more questions. One, I fully support Hidden Heartlands coming into Fermanagh. I think that's a wonderful thing, and welcome the 300,000 that's been made available. The big issue a lot of hospitality sector are talking about is the VAT differential, which is going to be even higher come July. What are you doing to lobby to be a voice for the businesses in Northern Ireland to really help bring the argument to the Treasury that we really need some support, even as a pilot scheme for Northern Ireland with reduced VAT for hospitality?
Well, I think we recognise, you know, we've got some very strong kind of sector bodies, you know, Hospitality Ulster and Hotel Federation, you know, the Northern Ireland Tourism Alliance, that are very much leading the charge in terms of making the case around a reduced kind of VAT rate. I think we do recognise it causes a competitive kind of challenge for a number of our tourism businesses, particularly those that operate on a cross-border basis. And I think for us as the sort of tourism development agency, I suppose we're focused on how do we support those businesses to become more competitive, to improve their resilience. So, but we let the sector agencies really sort of lead the charge in terms of making the case for a reduced VAT rate on a pilot basis, as you say.
You can understand the concern that yes, the visitors will come, but they may leave to go and eat where there's less, you know, where it's more reasonable to eat. Final question is really to do with skilled EU labour pool. Again, the hospitality sector is coming to me saying we can't find the skilled people, particularly chefs. It's not a skilled, you can't get a UK visa to come and work here. What can be done? We've got the cross-border element, Hidden Heartlands coming into Fermanagh. Can you help advocate for a softening of the rules? There's perhaps a rural framework for overseas skilled people to come be able to access work in Northern Ireland?
I mean, I know in the past that, you know, sort of other sectors and, you know, colleagues within the Department for the Economy have sort of sought to make the case for, you know, Northern Ireland specific kind of derogations within the kind of UK sort of immigration kind of framework, and there's been lots of work done, you know, to engage with the migration kind of advisory kind of committee around that. But I think, I mean, it has been very, very challenging, because I think UK government's position has been sort of to date that they view sort of that as an issue that, you know, and a set of criteria that should apply kind of across the whole of the UK. But I think we would certainly recognise that there's specific needs within Northern Ireland, that could be addressed. I think in the meantime, we're very much behind in supporting the work that the department are doing to develop an overall kind of skills action plan for hospitality and sort of tourism, which has been sort of chaired by Colin Johnson from the Gargom Collection. And I think what we'll be looking to do over the next number of months is kind of finalise that plan and really sort of look to put in place a set of priorities that can really seek to address some of those kind of challenges for the sector, because we recognise that the people that are at the core of what tourism delivers for visitors, and that we do need to ensure that all of our businesses have got access to the to the range of people that they need.
Do you take what you're saying, and I appreciate that, but there's an immediacy to this. There's a business investing 2 million across the border. It's straddling the border, and it has these issues, and it is a premium high-end tourism offering, as I mentioned in this document, and it's just those pressures. So the immediacy for skilled staff right now, we can't wait till they're trained in 2 to 3 years, and that's the message that we're getting from hospitality.
I think that's certainly something that we can look to sort of take up with officials in the department, and as I say, look to kind of potentially influence through those channels with Home Office, because ultimately it's really about ensuring that there's flexibility kind of applied at that level, obviously, rather than something that's within the executive's powers.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Diana. Colleagues, thank you very much for your presentation, and you're very welcome. If I could just start with all witnesses just in relation to international events and bringing those to Northern Ireland. Obviously, we have the All-Ireland Fáilte coming to Belfast next year, which is a major win. We have the Women's World Cup coming to Northern Ireland in 2035. Can you just outline what other work's been done in terms of trying to attract international events here to Northern Ireland?
So I suppose we're in a position at the moment where we're really sort of taking stock along with kind of department officials just around what the kind of future vision is for, I suppose, kind of major events, and really what the not just the Department for the Economy, but what the broader executives, kind of priorities and approach should kind of be in this area. And because I think, we recognise we've had lots of great success, through, obviously, through the Open, through the Giro, through some of the other fantastic events that we've been able to host here. We've clearly got an opportunity to have the Open back, in the next kind of number of years, as part of the arrangement with the RNA. I think it was really positive that the RNA announced this week that they're bringing the Amateur Open Championship to Portrush in sort of 2027. I think that's a real vote of confidence in how they found the experience from 2025. So I think there's a conversation that I think that we're having with department officials, I think, and others, just really about what the overall executive's approach should be to kind of major events. But I think we do see there's clearly significant benefits that are achieved from those, but there's obviously challenges around the cost and around budget and around how much of a priority should be given to those events vis-a-vis other aspects of the work that we do to develop tourism.
So that's useful, but in relation to, and I will come on to that now, so destination stewardship plan, we're still in discussion phase, even though that was announced nearly a year ago. Diana rightly raises the issue of capital support for tourism providers. Again, the response is we're in discussions at how we're going to look at this, and then international events, we're in discussions at how we're going to look at this. When are we going to move from having discussions to making decisions?
Well, I think on each of those, there has been a lot of engagement, both with department officials and and with external kind of stakeholders, and I think ultimately, we have sort of set out the priorities within the minister's action plan, and I think and as a tourism developer, we're very keen to be able to progress those, but I think we do recognise that that there's broad considerations around around kind of budget availability, around the overall balance of kind of priorities that we need to understand ultimately where the broader executive and where our department gets to in terms of that final kind of budget position. I think we're very supportive of a multi-annual budget, and I think that would be very beneficial for us in terms of being able to roll out programmes and be able to deliver for the industry in a more flexible way. But I think we clearly need to see how that process works out over the next coming weeks, as I say, obviously with our department colleagues.
And maybe just to mention as well, just to refer back to the Shared Ireland initiative. So that's something the Department for the Economy works with the Department of Enterprise, Tourism and Employment south of the border, and the funding comes from the Department of Taoiseach. The first phase is that coast to coast campaign for the two coasts, Causeway Coast and Wild Atlantic Way, and capital projects were announced in recent weeks about that on both sides of the border. The second phase is really shared destinations, and 3 shared destinations across the border where there'll be funding for local authorities on both sides of the border to develop.
Maybe just talk about some of the capital projects that were announced under Shared Ireland, but before we do, David, when are you going to announce the first stewardship destination plan? You know, we had officials from Tourism Northern Ireland here last April to say that we were nearly at a stage of announcing that. We're now February 2026, nearly a year later, and Gemma's rightly making a pitch for Mana. Other colleagues will make other pitches, but at some stage you need to stop talking about it and just do it.
Well, I say we have been engaging extensively with with councils and other stakeholders, and we've just completed another round of kind of engagement, over sort of December and January. So the process for us is that we're due to be back sort of discussing this with our board in March, and then we will look to kind of announce, as I say, what our kind of plans are after that.
April.
Yes, I would expect to be in a position to be clear about what our plans are, as I say, after our board in March.
And then Michael, so Shared Ireland announced a number of capital projects here in Northern Ireland. The Goblins, Museum of Free Dairy. I just can't quite recall them all. If you want me to just talk about those.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the phase 1. That's the coast to coast, and those capital projects, were announced in recent weeks. And again, the way we.
What all were they? If you just talked.
I don't. Let me see. I need to.
I've last year share. So there's the project with the National Trust at Giant's Causeway. There's the courthouse in Bushmills, obviously the sort of redevelopment there. As you mentioned, Museum of Free Dairy. There's an enhanced Dairy Girls experience within the City of Derry, and then, as you mentioned, a project at the Goblins in Mid and East Antrim.
Okay. And how do people then become involved / bid for that, or is that automatically just done by the Office of the Taoiseach, or how do you feed into that?
Well, those capital projects were selected. It was grant applications, and they were done.
There were applications.
Yes. So there was an open kind of process where we encouraged councils and other stakeholders and partners to apply, and then those obviously were assessed against the criteria, and as Michael said, then ultimately there's awards have been made to those 5 projects.
And then I just wanted to raise in relation to Tourism Northern Ireland's marketing. So I haven't seen officials since then, but I did correspond with them at the time. So on the 11th of July, on your social media posts on Facebook, you outlined on the 11th of July 7 upcoming great cultural events that were taking place in Belfast. Phelan Fogel was mentioned. There was other things around Belfast Pride, but starkly the 12th of July, which was one day later, was missing from your social media posts. Is there any particular reason why that was the case?
I don't think there was any particular reason why that was the case. I mean, I think we are kind of developing a broader approach, to kind of peace tourism, that involves a number of kind of stakeholders and partners, with a working group, and for example, comprising the Museum of Orange Heritage and other kind of key partners, that look to tell kind of a range of stories around this place and around the peace that has been achieved here, and around how we kind of better enhance that story as part of the offer that we make to kind of visitors. And so clearly there's significant work going on within that group, as I say, just around how we promote those experiences, how we promote those activities, and certainly there's a coming together of a whole range of experiences, as I say, within that portfolio and that group.
And just to add to that, sorry, Chair, and just add to that, we've recently had meetings with the Orange Order and the Museum of Orange Heritage to ensure that all the details of upcoming parades, etc., this year, and opportunities to view the parades are clearly communicated across to our site for our consumer-facing platforms. And we've also recently accepted an invitation to attend a conference at the start of March for organisers to help inform of the tourism opportunity and making sure that organisers understand the tourism opportunity. So we are participating in that conference at the start of March.
But you can understand how it looks to people. The single biggest cultural event that takes place in the city of Belfast during the summer is the 12th of July demonstration. Discover Northern Ireland put up a post advertising 7 cultural events that were taking place in the city one day before the 12th of July event, and it was not mentioned. Can you understand the frustration and disappointment that there are in some sections of the community? That doesn't seem to be a balanced approach when it comes to celebrating cultural events on tourism, Northern Ireland's perspective.
I can understand your point on that particular post. It clicked into then a wider article in which the 12th of July celebrations indeed were covered, and we have picked that up with the
post, and I have a copy of the post. The post had 7 events that were taking place in Belfast. I've mentioned some of them. Not one of them included the 12th of July demonstration, and it was one day later. So it doesn't take meetings with the Orange Order to know that the 12th of July is taking place on the 12th of July. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that people are going to be somewhat perturbed at the fact that one day before the biggest cultural event in the city of Belfast, the people that are meant to promote tourism in Northern Ireland, in our capital city, couldn't bring themselves to promote the 12th of July. So I hope this year, if we are doing those posts, that includes all events. It's rightly that we included events in relation to Fáilte and Fóbal. May not be something that I attend or support, but understand that it's important to tourism in the city that I represent. But also the 12th of July is of vital importance. So I just encourage you to ensure that you have a balanced approach on that. Sinead.
Okay, thank you for all your answers so far, and for your papers and documents, because they were quite detailed. I just want to say that I'm really disappointed that Fáilte Ireland isn't with you presenting the evidence, because we are talking about brands, and I'm delighted about the decision that Hidden Heartlands, the Fáilte brand, is now been added to Fermanagh. And I suppose in the papers that Fáilte Ireland presented to us, they very clearly said that there are no plans to license the Ireland's Ancient East or the Wild Atlantic Way brands to Northern Ireland. And just when such good news about the Hidden Heartlands, and they make such a positive case for adding that brand for use in Fermanagh, and they're saying it was based on a practical and evidence-based initiative that reflects how visitors already experience the region, and it strengthens the cross-border supports for businesses beyond, or providing a more coherent and compelling regional offering. The same applies to the Wild Atlantic Way and Ireland's Ancient East. And from Tourism Ireland's perspective, we're talking about how this enhanced branding supports the global message and the extension of the visitors across the region. You know, what can be done? What can Tourism Northern Ireland do? What can Tourism Ireland do in order to ensure that we extend those other brands right across Northern Ireland? You know, people like the Wild Atlantic Way signage is on the outskirts of our city, and yet it is not promoting everybody to travel onwards through the Causeway Coast and Glens. So I know there's collaboration, and you've mentioned some of those collaboration, but the signage itself is so very important. What can we do collectively to change this decision of Fáilte Ireland, where they do not want to extend the licensing of those particular brands as well?
Yeah, I'll maybe start if that's okay. I mean, in Tourism Ireland, we work with the opportunities we have, and this extension of Ireland and Heartlands of Fermanagh, we're delighted to work with it and support it. You know, it is they are brands owned by Fáilte Ireland, so it's ultimately an agreement between Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland on this extension or any other extensions. But you know, we promote itineraries, we promote journeys for visitors, and we promote not just coming to one destination, but we're always saying travel further, stay longer. And the shared island, that first stage, that coast to coast, is about, I think two iconic routes, one unforgettable journey. It is about encouraging people to travel both routes, the Causeway Coastal Route and the Wild Atlantic Way. The other shared destination investments under shared island are about crossing and itineraries that cross the border. So but we're able to still work and we promote the island of Ireland and all parts of the island of Ireland to our target overseas with the opportunities we have with the brands we have.
I suppose, David, I would like you to answer that as well.
No, I mean, I think really taking a echo, kind of what Michael said. I mean, I think we see the Causeway Coastal Route as having a really kind of strong brand. I mean, I know that some of the research that we've done collectively, shows that there's very strong consumer awareness of the Causeway Coastal Route. It resonates very, very well, with potential visitors, and I think, we really do sort of look to sort of optimise the opportunity, to enhance that kind of brand, as kind of Michael says, demonstrate how it kind of links, to the Wild Atlantic Way, and I think as well, I think we also are very focused on how we enhance the visitor experience, because we are very visitor led, and yes, the brand is kind of important, but ultimately it's about the experience and about the interpretation and the stop off points and all the kind of great things you can do across the Causeway Coastal Route that we really want to enhance. So I think, yes, it's something that certainly we will continue to engage with Tourism Ireland and Fáilte Ireland colleagues on through the All Ireland Sustainable Tourism Group. But I think as we sit here today, obviously the focus is on, as I say, how we really optimise the opportunity that we've got through the Causeway Coastal Route connecting with the Wild Atlantic Way.
Do you understand why Fáilte Ireland has said that there are no plans to extend the licence? What is the reason that they won't extend the licence of the Wild Atlantic Way and Ireland's Ancient East? You're obviously talking to them and collaborating them, so you must know why the answer is no.
I think that's probably something you'd have to ask for more detail from
them. We
would,
but they didn't come today.
As I say, I mean, obviously they have their own kind of objectives around how they can look to grow tourism, within their jurisdiction, as do Tourism and I. Clearly, there's a number of areas where we do look to collaborate where it makes sense. And as I say, at the moment, as I say, their view, which we've supported, is that the focus is on extending Ireland's Hidden Heartlands to Fermanagh, just given the collaboration that already exists there, given the continuity of the product, the visitor experience between those two areas. So, as I say, I think for us it's really about how we maximise the opportunity from that, and then see where we go from there.
But with the greatest respect, we're trying to make do with what we've got, 2 routes, one experience and all of that there. We're having to work around it as well. Now, I mean, I love the brand, in terms of the Wild Atlantic Way. I'm surrounded by it in my city, in 3 sides of my city. So I have great experience with it, and I have great experience with visitors experiencing it, and we seem to be, we're either at the start of that brand or at the end of the brand, whatever way you look at it, but we're right there, and yet we can't get the signage in order to extend it on through the Causeway Coast and Glens and up the Antrim coast, and it's the most spectacular coast way that we have, I would nearly argue, on the islands. So it's a missed opportunity. It's just a complete missed opportunity, and I can see no reason for it, apart from obviously the owners, Fáilte Ireland, saying they have no plans. But what I want to know is, what plans do you have in order to persuade them that this is an opportunity for Tourism Ireland, Tourism Northern Ireland, and when you look at the shared island, projects and the capital spend, they're obviously trying to invest in that a collaboration along the thing. Why is the Wild Atlantic Way not part of it?
And I think for us, they've obviously made their position clear. So it's really for us.
Is it money?
Is it really? I think it's really would be something you would have to get some further kind of detail from them on, because
it's like a closed door. We can't get any information.
For us, it really is about we know we've got a very strong tourism product on the Causeway Coastal Route. We know that we can develop it kind of further, and we can generate more benefit there. Yeah. And as I say, we think that that the Causeway kind of coastal route, kind of branding really does give us a really strong opportunity. So we do think there's significant benefit that we can generate out of that collaborative arrangement, as I say, that doesn't, as I say, require Wild Atlantic Way to be licensed across.
Okay, and the other question, just when we last met with Tourism Northern Ireland, there was a review going on Visit Derry. Where are we at with that review now? What's the position?
So that review was sort of completed at the tail end of kind of last year, and the findings are now kind of back with the board. And as I understand it, the board are kind of looking at future options for the evolution of kind of visit dairy, and obviously council are key to that, along with obviously the private sector kind of members. So I think they're looking to really determine, I think as a board, really what the future approach and structure should be for visit dairy, and how they sort of support the broader kind of destination development, and the work of the McGee task force and everything else that's happening within the city. But as I say, it's really something then that is for the board to really determine how they move that forward.
It's nearly the same answers we had the last time, and we're a significant number of months on from that. So it's really important that we do move that on. We're into another tourism season within the city and region, and we need to know the direction of travel. Okay, thank you.
Michael, Fáilte Ireland are a public body in the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah.
They act under the direction and control of ministers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Would it be usual that they would refuse requests from politicians to come and speak?
I mean, their sponsor body is the same as our sponsor department in the south, and they come to the Oireachtas. They're accountable to the Oireachtas. They're fully funded. I mean, we're funded by both sponsor bodies on the North South Ministerial Council, whereas they're just funded from the southern government.
Okay. Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And can I declare that my dad is a local councillor in Uri, Mourne and Down District Council for the Mournes. Thank you all for coming here. It's my first day on the Economy Committee, and I'm really pleased that it's a day that I get to talk about tourism, something I feel really strongly about, representing South Down and living in the Mournes. I was listening to you, Michael. You said that one of your objectives is to support tourism NI to make sure that Northern Ireland reaches its tourism potential. I just wanted to ask, where is Northern Ireland being promoted as a tourism destination on its own? Whilst I understand the value in the established brands and the importance of linking into them, I'm really concerned that I don't see Northern Ireland as a tourist destination in itself being promoted anywhere, from the Mourne Mountains, the Giant's Causeway, the Titanic, Fermanagh, that package. I just want to ask in terms of the tourism NI position, or where you're coming from, Tourism Ireland, and how it's supported just that marketing of brand tourism Northern Ireland.
I suppose in terms of overseas consumer marketing, our mandate is an Island of Ireland, and we're funded Island of Ireland by the two governments. So the consumer marketing, we try to always be show destinations across both sides of the border. For familiarisation visits, for bringing journalists in, as I referred to in my opening statement, there will be ones that are specific. They will be region specific. I think there's a farm visit just finished this week across Northern Ireland. We organise the familiarisation visits with Tourism Northern Ireland or Fáilte Ireland. And then, as I said in the opening statement, we'll bring Northern Irish businesses to our business-to-business events around the world as well.
I suppose it's maybe more directed then at the tourism NI piece, because I know in your written submission to the committee, it's page 61 of our pack, but it says tourism NI's marketing activity focuses on attracting more visitors from the Republic of Ireland and encouraging residents to holiday at home. It doesn't mention marketing, focus on promoting Northern Ireland as a tourism destination abroad. Is that not?
No, our remit is to promote Northern Ireland on the island of Ireland, so our marketing campaigns are very much focused on getting local people to holiday at home, and then encouraging visitors from the Republic of Ireland to come north. And then we also collaborate very closely with Tourism Ireland to ensure then that we've got the right industry, the right hotels and the right visitor attractions who are able to go to overseas platforms and secure international business as well. But our focus from a tourism NI marketing point of view is very much to get people on the island to come north and have their short break or their holiday with us, and our marketing campaigns are very much focused on that. So our spring marketing campaign out at the minute is very significant. It will reach 77% of all adults on the island, with 146 million digital impressions, and we're encouraging Northern Ireland tourism businesses to really get involved in that and provide their offers and to participate in the marketing campaigns as well. So that's where we really focus, and then we work with Tourism Ireland to welcome up to 300 international media journalists every year to help tell our Northern Ireland story overseas. And coming up now at the end of March, we will have our Meet the Buyer, which is a big flagship B2B sales platform where we bring in international tour operators to meet I think about 180 Northern Ireland tourism businesses right across Northern Ireland who are there to contract and do future business. So it's a twofold approach. It's very much focusing promoting Northern Ireland on the island, and then working with Tourism Ireland on that international front.
And if it's okay, just to say that, I mean, historically before Tourism Northern Ireland was established, what would have been the old Northern Ireland Tourism Board and Bord Fáilte each had their own overseas offices. When Tourism Ireland was established, the decision was that Tourism Ireland was established to market the island of Ireland overseas. So our markets offices that are in 15 locations around the world take on that, and it's economies of scale. I mean, the office that we have in Glasgow would have, before we were established, would have been an old Northern Ireland Tourism Board, I think as well as our Canadian office, but we carry out that on behalf of Northern Ireland and Ireland.
I understand it's rolled forward that way, but I think it's disappointing if the height of our ambition is just small scale, because Northern Ireland has so much to offer, and it could be such a huge boost to the economy here to make that pitch a little bit wider. I know my sister-in-law is from New Zealand, and whenever she was Googling what to do the first time she came in Northern Ireland, it was very difficult for her to even shape that journey, and that was her feedback to me in and around that. But I just wanted to touch also on the Belfast Region and City deal. In my area there was an offer in there for the Mourne Mountain Gateway project, which was going to be a huge £30 million external investment from the UK government secured through the DP's negotiations on the city deals, and it was really exciting to think that the Mourne Mountains were going to get a world-class tourism facility. I know there's dispute around whether it be a gondola, visitor centre, whatever it may be, but it's fallen at the wayside, and it's fallen back to council, and a lot more sort of not tourism specific things are coming forward. I just wanted to ask, in terms of you and tourism in Northern Ireland, for me, for the area I represent, that was a huge gut blow for an area in South Down, the Mournes. Sinead had mentioned her coast, but the mountains of Mourne sweep down to the sea there. Like it is a destination in itself, and very rarely gets attention or investment. And for that to have fallen through, it was a huge disappointment to local businesses and the entire sector down there. So I just wanted to ask, in terms of tourism in Northern Ireland, what was your role in that, and what is your continued role in that? Do you see an opportunity still for tourism in the Mournes for this external investment?
So we're heavily involved with department officials and councils in all of the city deal projects that have a kind of tourism focus. So yes, we'd have worked very closely with council colleagues and sort of wider stakeholders on the development of the Mourne Gateway proposals, and obviously now that that's not kind of proceeding, we've been very, very keen as an organisation to ensure that funding is invested in an alternative kind of tourism investment for the area, because we think there is very significant further potential for the Mournes and the wider area in relation to tourism. So I know that kind of council officials have been doing some work around what that alternative kind of proposition may kind of look like, and that there's some kind of work that they're going to be coming to talk to us about in the coming weeks. So my kind of expectation would be that we will hopefully see an alternative tourism proposal come forward to use that £30 million from the Belfast Region City deal, and we'll look to obviously support council as we progress that proposal through the through the business case and through the approval process.
And in doing that, just would encourage you to take stock of whatever they offer. There is an established brand there in terms of Visit Mourne Mountains. If the council brings a wider piece, it's not necessarily focused on that. And just on that one, I just wanted to ask about the local councils and the work that they do in terms of tourism. In my local council in particular, Visit Mourne Mountains is a very, very established brand. The data is there, and the council do a lot of work. They have their own website. But it's my understanding that through Tourism NI, all those links don't appear on your website. They've been removed over time. So whenever you have local councils who have a really strong, I'm presuming this is other councils as well, where they have those links, where they have those brands, are doing good work in local councils, would it not be in the interest of Tourism Northern Ireland to actually link and profile those and have them maybe on your homepage of your website?
And we work very closely with all the local councils to ensure that we are getting accurate representation of all the tourism experiences and businesses and accommodation all coming through our discovernorthernIreland.com website, which is the main shop window for tourism in Northern Ireland. It's very closely linked with all council websites, and indeed would, I believe, take a direct feed from the Visit Mourne website. They're all created on the same platform, which is called Simple View. So there's a very seamless process in terms of products being pulled through and showcased. And we've just relaunched the discovernorthernIreland.com website. It achieves up to 3 million unique visitors per year, which is quite sizable from all the key markets and indeed from overseas as well. So having a seamless look and feel to how tourism experiences are marketed both at a council level and at our level was one of the main objectives of that pieces of work. So if there's any particular issues with that feed, I will pick up directly with the council to establish if there's maybe glitches or something that's happened.
I'll be keen to pick that up with you, Emer, on it, just because it is such a strong established brand and it has dropped off there. Can I have just one final one, Chair? Michael, I just wanted to ask in terms of the Tourism Ireland piece, Carlingford Ferry, are you engaged with that, or what's your view to the role that it plays? It's Carlingford link into Greencastle at the bottom of my constituency and quite often doesn't get a lot of attention through the tourism organisations.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of development of the product, it'd be within Tourism Northern Ireland, and our role will be then on marketing and sales overseas.
Yeah, and I think we're very, I think we very much see that whole area as a working priority. Obviously, given the narrow water bridge, given the investment that that is coming through Shared Island, and obviously you mentioned the the BRCD investment that's going to look to go into that area as well. So I think we sort of see that area really really developing as a further kind of hotspot for kind of tourism, and certainly the links kind of across. I think we would be very, very supportive of.
But where the narrow water bridge has gone in, like on either side off the border there, it would feel that attention's gone away from the Carlingford Ferry. I'm just asking specifically to the Carlingford Ferry. Are you engaged with them, because we don't want to see one of the Shared Island projects take off with the bridge and then the ferry suffer at the expense of that?
I can't speak about recent years, but I know in previous years Carlingford Ferry would have attended Meet the Buyer and met with international tour operators, so there was a range of opportunities that are put out to all industry, but I can certainly check, go back to the office and see what the recent engagement has been.
That's great, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for coming in. I'm not from Fermanagh, but I'm married to a Fermanagh man, so everyone is delighted in our house, and actually I think that I always say this to Diana and Gemma, but Enniskillen is this most amazing high street, and you've got amazing hotels and restaurants, and you've got a bookshop in Ironside now, and I'd move there if it wasn't such a long commute and had more Alliance representation.
Tell the voters of South Belfast.
Well, that leads on nicely. To South Belfast, and when I was on Belfast City Council, there was a lot that was being done around community tourism and the opportunity for a regeneration. And when you look at somewhere like the Holy Lands, which has murals that are being developed, and the opportunity there for tourism, community tourism, to instill pride in areas, but also to tell a different story. So I'm just curious about any plans you have around community tourism, and I'd like to better understand the opportunities for peace tourism, because there's a slight unease with this idea of kind of monetizing something that is so sensitive and which still is very present in our life, and there's so much trauma, but also acknowledging that actually that's something that people are really interested in about this place, the resilience, how we can live together well now, and that passage. So community tourism and how that ties in with peace tourism is something I'd like to know a little bit more about.
I'll pick up firstly on community tourism, and you're absolutely right. Getting local people telling local stories in their local area are very much what visitors want. They want that real meaningful experience. So community tourism is absolutely a great area of potential for us. We have so many natural storytellers and people all around who are ready to do that. So we've been working, I suppose, keeping abreast of Belfast City Council and their recent community tourism initiatives, and just recently actually just on Monday, some Tourism Ireland colleagues and ourselves went on the Creative Arts Tour across the city of Belfast from north, south, east and west, visiting various different locations, and that's been a product of that community tourism initiative. So it is absolutely something that we are working on and keen to develop in the future. Just to go back to the previous point, we need people to stay longer and spend more, and having great experiences is how we're going to do that. Some members of our portfolio, our experience portfolio, are based in and around the South Belfast area, and they would have walking tours of Ormeau Park or the Ballynafie area, which are increasingly popular and run each week. So absolutely, that very much plays to our brand and what we want tourism experiences to look like. In terms of peace tourism then, that was called out in the Tourism Vision and Action Plan to develop an approach to peace tourism. So over the past year, Tourism NI has been working very closely with a range of stakeholders to really develop an authentic and sensitive and inclusive approach to peace tourism, and how does that look. And I suppose you're absolutely right, for a lot of people it is a point of differentiation. It's what they want to find out more about, and we need to look at both the peace process, but then as you rightly say, where we are now and the sort of new Northern Ireland. So we've been working with a steering group which is made up of key tourism providers who are active in that area, so national museums, the Museum of Free Dairy, memberships of the Conflict Legacy and Interpretive Network who've been very engaged in that space. And we also have community-based initiatives who are part of that steering group, as well as academics who've been working in that space. And I suppose the group now has been meeting every quarter, and we're working through the development of a plan. So first and foremost, we've been looking at how we bring together all the tourism experiences related in that area. We have a peace tourism landing page on Discover Northern Ireland, which lists all the products, especially in the dairy area, where there's Museum of Free Dairy, there's the Siege Museum, there's walking tours. And so that helps people sort of understand, well, if you're interested in that story, how can you go about planning your journey? The next stage of the project is to work with the group, and in particular with the Conflict Legacy and Interpretive Network, to develop principles of ethical storytelling. So if you want to look at a tourism experience in this area, or you want to be able to tell your story, what are the key principles that you should consider to make sure that people are getting your point of view, but also a rounded point of view, because there's multiple perspectives to the peace tourism story. Just recently, just last week, with Tourism Ireland, our national museums, Northern Ireland and Tourism Ireland, secured an opportunity for us at the Educational Travel Consortium, sorry I can't say that, which brings together a lot of academic tourism planners in the US market, and we were able to have numerous opportunities there to promote our peace tourism story, because it is of great interest for academic tourism as well. So there's a range of initiatives ongoing, and we are having great engagement from the steering group and the industry working in that area.
Can I just add a little bit more on peace tourism marketing overseas? I mean, we do research of consumer sentiment in our target markets on what attracts people to Northern Ireland, why they consider holidaying in Northern Ireland, what would put them off. And most people consider visiting here for the scenery, the engagement with people and culture. Peace tourism is there, but it is a minority of that. The sort of the interest in the history and the politics is very much a minority, and we see which markets there's most interest. So we target on that basis, like North America, Canada, and the US. There is an interest, and it's the nuance in who you market to there, like those alumni groups that we have. It's not for necessarily mass market, but again, on Ireland.com we have our peace tourism page as well, that highlights the offerings that are there.
That's so useful. That research is really important, because you'll have suspicions of what you think is going to interest people most based on what you're interested in, but actually understanding those markets is so important.
We did a lot of market research in terms of the particular mindsets who are most open to peace tourism and who are interested in this very there's 4 different mindsets, but they each wanted to experience the product in a very different way. Like one wanted to find out more through community groups and through engagement with local communities. Others, it was through the arts. So there's lots of opportunity there for developing the right experience for the right markets. But it is absolutely a very nuanced approach that's required.
Yeah, really interesting. Thank you so much. So much else has been touched, so I won't labour. I just wanted to reiterate Sinead's point about the Wild Atlantic Way, and I won't go you because Fáilte isn't here and you've already been through it, but it does, to me, it like makes no sense. It is this amazing brand, and we're just stopping rather than extending it on. So I just want to add my voice to the importance of the Wild Atlantic Way branding being extended, and I think if there's a way of us kind of communicating with relevant minister or department to have those answers, it would be really worthwhile. Final question, I guess, then is from your perspective, and I think tourism is just such a wonderful story that we have to tell. And a really great example of shared working. What additional political enablers would you like to see to be able to do the work that you're doing, be able to do more of it, leverage more of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the trade visits are wonderful. And I was with the minister in China in December in Shanghai, where we had a tourism event. And, when the minister travels to highlight tourism in the relevant destinations, the most relevant destinations, that's really valuable for us.
Yeah, I think for us, I think we very much recognise that tourism is a really kind of strong and important kind of sector, and it's a sector that really kind of benefits and touches the whole of the whole of Northern Ireland, and it's a sector that really crosses kind of all geographies and all and all communities, and I think so where we've got ministers and other political representatives just supporting all of our work, whether that be our events, whether that be investments in our experiences, as I say, I think that really kind of adds a lot of strength and value to what we do.
There's no particular data that you would like to see, or there's no I'm just conscious that there may be other things that we should be pushing for as a committee that would make it easier in the work that you're doing, but it's just more promotion and support.
I think it's the understanding that tourism delivers for so many areas. It does touch on tourism ecosystem, touches on many particular areas. In fact, just a recent meeting where we were discussing greenways or signature walks. There was benefits for health, there was benefits for mental health, there was benefits for rural communities, there was benefits of bringing jobs and skills to parts of the economy or places where maybe other industries still go. So I suppose it's just that recognition that obviously tourism is a driver for economic impact, but it also has a range of many other benefits, including civic pride for the people of here.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing to mention that I'd mention is access. I mean, access to Northern Ireland is so important to our seaports, and we play our part, and we've got jurisdictional funding to support routes in this year from the minister, but access is our life. But access and hotels, accommodation space, then we can sell.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for coming today. I think everybody will recognise that we have a fantastic tourism offering in Northern Ireland, and there's an incredible goodwill right across the world to visit this place, to enjoy its food, its locations, its scenery, and so much of that is because of bodies like yourself that have really promoted Northern Ireland at home and abroad, and it's very much appreciated. I just want to probably focus to begin with on the relationship between the three organisations. So we have Fáilte Ireland, which is totally funded by the Republic of Ireland, correct?
Yeah.
To the tune of, what's the budget per year, do we know?
I don't know Fáilte's budget.
Anybody know?
We'll have to come back to you on that.
Okay. Tourism NI, which is entirely funded by the Northern Ireland Executive, total budget per year?
Approximately £20 million.
Pardon?
Approximately £20 million.
Approximately £20 million.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's 124 employees?
We have approximately 140 full-time employees.
The paper said 124. So you said, sorry, approximately 20 million a year. Tourism NI spend was 38 million in 23-24. Is that inclusive of the Tourism NI or Tourism Ireland funding towards it, or how does that?
So we did get a significant increase in funding off the back of the Minister's kind of economic recovery sort of action plan. So as I say, our budgets sort of in the last year have obviously dropped down to more sort of non kind of COVID related levels of
during
activity.
COVID, the height. So that tourism NI spend for 23-24 was around 38 million, which is in my pack. Is that normal?
No, as I say, that was a very significant increase, as I say, off the back of COVID, recognising the real challenges that tourism kind of faced, and as I say, the Minister was successful in securing a significant uplift to our budget. I mean, we're happy to provide a profile of our budgets over the last 5 years, so we can see how that's changed and evolved.
Okay, so a bit of clarity, and that's required. So obviously, Fáilte, funded by the Republic of Ireland, Tourism NI, funded by the Northern Ireland Executive. They both then fund Tourism Ireland. Yes, £80 million from Fáilte to Tourism Ireland, 28 million a year from Tourism NI. That's correct.
I mean, effectively, they come from the sponsor departments. Tourism
Yeah.
Northern Ireland, Fáilte are members, but effectively
Okay.
they come from the sponsor department.
So my collection is that means that Northern Ireland funds 35% of Tourism Ireland.
I mean, yeah, it varies year on year, and there are some jurisdictional specific funding that comes in that might be ring-fenced jurisdiction, but yeah, it's
Do you think that Northern Ireland's getting its bang for its buck in that regard? 35%, is there any matrix? Like we had a meeting actually yesterday with Queen's University, who were able to tell us that for every £1 spent by the Northern Ireland Executive on their institutions, they generate 8. Is there any figures for our investment in Tourism Ireland as to the return?
So our ambition for growth and our corporate plan was approved by the North-South Ministerial Council last month, does have higher growth rate ambitions for Northern Ireland compared to the South, and it's because Northern Ireland is coming from a lower tourism base, and that's always been in our mandate since we were established, to help Northern Ireland reach its tourism potential. But our marketing return on investment that we have on research on is about 25 return for every £1 spent.
And is there a difference for the Fáilte Ireland's spend with Tourism Ireland, what their return is? Would you have any of those details? You don't. Okay. Moving on, so obviously Tourism NI spend in 23-24 was around 38 million. How much of that was spent on, and I suppose this maybe to you, Emer, for a marketing perspective, on social media influencers?
I would need to get you the exact figure,
Okay.
but our spend on social media influencers is one part of a number of marketing activities, but the bulk of the spend would be on the paid channels, so your TV, your video on demand, your radio and outdoor, but I'd be able to revert with the exact sum.
Has there been a notable increase in paid platforming of social media influencers with regards to the budget for Tourism NI's marketing spend?
I would, again, I don't have the exact figures, but I would say so. I think we all increasingly know the influence of influencers in terms of being able to showcase products and regions and experiences. So we do work very closely with influencers. We assess their following. We see if there's a natural fit between their following and their type of content, and if it's appropriate for our aims and objectives. But I would say over the past few years that particular channel is certainly growing in popularity and indeed impact, and we're able to very closely monitor the results and the success of particular influencer activity as well. It's all very clear in terms of seeing the views, the likes, the comments, the shares, etc. So it's quite see-through.
You would understand there is some concern that it is becoming quite extortionate in terms of the amount of money that's being asked by some influencers for paid product essentially online. Talk me through what a contract with a social media influencer would look like for a particular brand or particular event or location. So is it accommodation plus payment plus other benefits? What does a package look like?
We work through a set of guidelines in terms of we assess, what the social media or the influencer can offer us. What are their following like? What's their content? And then we look at a clear process. Fam trips, essentially, which this falls under, is the same as we would do for international media or tour operators. And there's a clear set of guidelines in terms of limits and appropriate spend to be looking at for those particular influencers. So that would be clearly detailed and outlined at the onset.
Would a paid influencer also find themselves, their family being paid for as well to partake in these activities?
I would need to check through, but sometimes it is, that is part of the sale. So say, for example, if it's for a family package or a family holiday, targeting families is one of our key segments, then that they would feature, because that makes it all the more relevant and impactful that people could look and see themselves in that particular short break or experience.
The campaign for Ireland's Hidden Heartlands to Fermanagh, and it sounds fantastic. It could really reap benefits, but Tourism A&I were provided an additional £300,000 to a dedicated marketing strategy. Of that 300k, how much was on social media influencers?
I will revert with that figure.
Okay,
I just don't have that to hand.
I think
but
we
it
need
would
a wee
be
bit more clarity.
A proportion, but the majority of the spend would be on paid channels such as your TV, your video on demand, radio, and there's a significant press rotations within that campaign as well, but I revert with the exact figure.
Tourism Ireland, do they have paid influencers?
Yeah. So similar to Tourism Northern Ireland, consumer marketing is still the largest, by far, the part of our marketing budget, paid advertising. And again, you're talking about paid advertising on TVs in US, Great Britain, mainland Europe. Programming funds like the ones I referred to, Dermot O'Leary, would also be a very significant element as well. And influencers are part of it, a smaller part, but it is growing. It is how a lot of consumers around the world engage with and choose products and choose travel. The influencers that we would engage may not be ones that you would be familiar with, because we're marketing overseas, so it'll be German influencers, Spanish influencers, American influencers, and again we'd have central frameworks, and then the engagement will be led by our markets teams who know those markets, who know the German market, so that it's a German influencer speaking to a German market about their experience. And again, the contracts would be setting out landmarks, and there's value for money evaluations after the fact to see how it works. But it is a growing area.
So I need more detail.
Yeah.
I need to be set clearly how much is being spent with your respective organisations on social media influencers and what those packages look like to ensure and satisfy both I and indeed the taxpayer that there's not extortionate rates being charged for clear perks for some of these events.
And we get parliamentary questions and freedom of information requests. So
moving on to the next point, and the Chair talked eloquently about the international events, and we all know from our own respective constituencies how successful they are in marketing brand towards Northern Ireland. You talked about the golf for one example, and those are hugely successful events. I suppose I want to focus on local events, yearly events, and their power for the local economy, because yes, there's a great lift when we have these international events, but they're not always there. How do you assess support packages for local homegrown yearly events? So, we've heard it before. I think of the Foyle Cup, I think of the Northwest, I think of Georgian Day Armagh, there's many more. How do you assess the level of financial and other support that you provide to these events?
So the main, mechanism for those homegrown events is our International Tourism Events Fund, which we operate on an annual basis, and that's an open call kind of fund. And in fact, the most recent call kind of closed at the start of kind of January, and the team are just working through the applications for that at the moment. And it's really about, I suppose, how are we, to what extent is the event kind of driving out of state kind of tourism? To what extent do we think it really is going to act as a, as a prompt and as a, and as an additional kind of driver for kind of out of state tourism? We also, kind of assess it in relation to the, I suppose, the additionality and the added value of our support, because we're very clear with event organisers that we're not a core funder of their activity, so we're really clear about what additional activity, whether it be through marketing or other aspects of what that event is going to do, that really does kind of merit our support. And I think as well, we also seek to have a set of criteria that tries to ensure that we have a spread of events across the calendar year, and we have a spread of events kind of across NI. So there's an element to which we're looking to support our other objectives around regional balance, around seasonal spread, so that ultimately, as I say, that the overall events package that we are kind of funding in one particular year is, you know, supporting a range of those objectives.
Some of the homegrown events will result in bed stays.
Yes, yeah.
And I look at the Northwest, for example, and even the Foyle Cup where you have teams coming across, and that's good. We all know the reasons for it. There's other homegrown events that, in a sense, they don't necessarily result in bed stays, but they do result in money into the local economies, particularly of restaurants, public, anything across that local stay, shops. And I think we have to recognise the importance of that. So, like the Chair's mentioned, the Fela that's come into Belfast, you know, that'll be a wonderful event in terms of the numbers that will come to it. You know, it'll be a showcase of the Irish musical culture and everything that the city has to offer. The events that I'm also involved with as an attendee, something like on Scarva Day, the 13th of July, which actually recognised as the largest yearly one-day event in Northern Ireland. How much funding do they receive from Tourism NI or promotion, or is there any figures?
It would be listed on Discover Northern Ireland in terms of, you know, events to look at. You know, we host about 3,000 events per year on the website. All our campaign traffic is driven towards that to help people, you know, plan their stay and plan their journey. In terms of funding, as David has outlined, the main source of funding from Tourism NI is the International Tourism Events Funding, so that is an open call process.
So the Fáilte that's coming to Belfast, what's the level of funding that's going to be received from Tourism NI to support that event? And rightly so, by the way, what will be the level of funding?
So that's an event that we kind of treat as what we call kind of a major event. So it's not an event that we have a ring-fenced amount of kind of funding for. So there's a business case which is currently sort of sitting within the Department for the Economy, the Department of Finance, which is kind of setting out what sort of Tourism NI's kind of funding contribution would kind of be to that. So that's kind of something that once that's all being well is approved, then that's something that we can come back and confirm. But clearly that's an event where we are looking to use the hopeful funding that comes through TNI to further activate that event, further support experiences and sort of spread of visitors coming right across NI. Clearly the focus is on Belfast in terms of the Fela itself, or the flat itself, sorry. So yeah, as I say, we're in the process of having that decided upon by sort of colleagues within sort of Department of Economy and sort of Department of Finance, because it's captured within that broader kind of major events, which I think the Chair kind of mentioned earlier. So
why would the FLA not have to be the same as the other events, which is the International Tourism Events Fund? So let's look at the Northwest, for example. That's what they apply through, the Northwest 200.
Yeah.
Why would that be different than the likes of the event in Belfast, the FLA?
Because when the approach was kind of made, it was, you know, on the scale of the event and the number of visitors, it was sort of deemed, you know, to be in that kind of higher tier kind of category of, you know, of kind of major events that were kind of mobile, that, you know, that they don't, you know, they wouldn't necessarily be here, you know, kind of every year, and therefore we've looked to consider it on the basis of, as I say, that broader and very significant impact, clearly just in terms of the number of visitors that are going to be attracted to it, the opportunity, you know, to work with, you know, sort of Tourism Ireland around overseas visitors as well. So it was deemed to be in that kind of major events category rather than within the kind of homegrown.
Do you have a number cap on that? You talked about what would attract in numbers. Do you have an indicative number that would qualify for that special sort of status of funding packages through the executive?
I mean, we do, yes. So as I say, so it's within the draft events kind of framework that I mentioned earlier. So, you know, so again, we can share the kind of detail of that. You know, so obviously, you know, colleagues from our events team have been just working to, you know, refine and revise, you know, that criteria. But as I say, the approach is that we look on an ad hoc kind of basis at those kind of major events. As I say, that are generally mobile, generally coming to Northern Ireland on a one-off or a limited basis, as I say, and are of a scale that we feel can deliver very significant economic impact, and as I say, in particular in relation to kind of out of state. You know,
but you don't have it. You don't know. You can't say today what that fixed figure is in terms of visitor potential that would trigger to the executive table for a special paper and potentially further support.
I don't have the figures in front of me, but we can certainly follow up on that.
I'll close on that. I think we need to see that. I really do. And by the way, I make clear, I support all international events coming to Northern Ireland. I support those local year-round events that have a huge impact on all of our respective constituencies and constituents. But as the Chair had mentioned earlier, you know, when I look at the level of support for certain events and the importance of peace tourism, as you've mentioned, you know, I don't want to see any of our respective bodies falling into the trap whereby, you know, events of an Ulster Scots British tradition event is seen in some way as exclusively to one community and therefore we can't fund it. I want to see all of these events funded. I want to see the ability for people to explore and experience everybody's culture within Northern Ireland, and I think we need to see that demonstrated through whether it's promotional. And I welcome what you said in terms of the post and how that will go forward in terms of marking of the 12th of July. But these other events are huge drivers of our local economy and we need to be seen to be supporting them. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in. Apologies, I was late in. Read through the pack. I think you've heard actually from all of us. Everybody's passionate about, you know, getting visitors to Northern Ireland, promoting actually our own. All of them I've heard from Anna in the Mourns and in the Belfast and Lagan Valley, and I'll do exactly the same. So we're all passionate about getting numbers, but taking the politics out of this completely, because this if somebody's coming to visit. It seems to me, just listening to you, there's two kind of, there's a domestic market, which we do, and then there's an international market. Somebody coming in internationally, we're trying to get them north. 80% are coming through, or 70% are coming through the south. 80% of that's coming through Dublin Airport, and we're trying to extend that. And we're trying to bring them north, right? But what we're doing, if you look at the numbers there, domestic tourism in Northern Ireland is static, but yet the south have doubled the numbers. So what is doing now, or what we're doing now, isn't working. Is that fair enough?
Well, I mean, I think for us, I mean, obviously, our you know, as Emer said, our kind of responsibility is to focus, you know, on the island of Ireland, you know, both, you know, Northern Ireland, and obviously looking to encourage more people to come south to north. I mean, I think we have seen, you know, it has been kind of challenging in terms of encouraging more Northern Ireland residents to kind of holiday at home. I think, you know, kind of cost of living and other factors. I think it's been,
Set the domestic stuff aside. The international market is what I'm talking about. So the international market, we are failing to attract people north. Is that by those numbers?
No, we are growing the international market for Northern Ireland.
Okay. By what percent?
Sorry, I have figures in my opening statement. It was 1%.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have the 2025.
Okay.
That was year on year, but I think it was 3% the year before. Sorry.
Okay. But the south has doubled. They're on 50%. We're on 1%. So what is the way this has been done is failing, completely failing to bring visitors to Northern Ireland.
No, I mean, numbers are growing on both sides of the border. International visitors are growing on both sides of the border. We want to grow faster in Northern Ireland. There's more potential for growth there. There is accommodation. The level of hotel space is not as much as it is south of the border, so that is part of it. But
none of them are at 100%. So when you look through your figures, some of them are 50%, some are 55%, I think was the average. So,
and part of that is seasonality. I mean, peak seasons will be higher.
It's the same season. Whenever I look at this, right, and I just Googled as I was sitting here, County Clare and Cliffs and Moor, they have a strategy for themselves. And when you look at it, it's Discover Clare, Feel Vibrant, right? I've never heard of it. But equally, until I Googled one of the last meetings, I'd never heard of Giant's Bird either. So, like, it means nothing to anybody. Whereas the Wild Atlantic Way frames what it is, Ancient East frames what it is, Hidden Heartlands frames what it is. Are we not just Dublin for the sake of Dublin stuff, rather than just trying to attract people?
I think whenever we look at Embrace the Giant Spirit, and in particular through the marketing campaigns, we would year on year track the recall of the brand, and indeed in both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, awareness of the brand is actually increasing year on year, and we see that in terms of our our marketing campaigns. You know, if I just look at our marketing campaigns for 2025. For the Republic of Ireland, our campaigns generated £94 million of economic impact. That gave 762,000 visits and a return of investment of 84 to 1. So the marketing campaigns are absolutely driving demand to the near 6,000 tourism businesses.
And you're talking about domestic stuff?
Yes, but
I'm not talking about domestic stuff. I'm talking about international markets and visitors coming into the island of Ireland, why they're not coming north.
They are, and I guess we have a different approach depending on the markets. For Great Britain, we get access directly into Northern Ireland. For France, for Netherlands, when you go further overseas, the flights, the long haul flights, majority of them do come into Dublin, and it's about promoting those journeys across the island.
So if I live, choose a place, Toronto, and I'm going to travel to Ireland, they will see as one. Mm-hmm. And I'm travelling in, and I go to the Wild Atlantic Way, for an example, or the Ancient East, and look at the market in Brandon of where it is. We have then got another brand. So you're putting an extra step into that, rather than just enable. So and I really welcome the Hidden Heartlands, because that's really good to see. But the Wild Atlantic Way, has Tourism Northern Ireland requested the branding from Fáilte Ireland, the use of Wild Atlantic Way and the Ancient East?
I mean, the discussion around all of the, I suppose, brands has been worked through at the All Ireland Sustainable Tourism Group, I think, which was kind of mentioned in the briefing, and I think, ultimately, as I say, it was agreed with Fáilte Ireland, that the initial focus should be on extending the islands and the Highlands into Fermanagh, and and as we touched on earlier, we've committed, to reinforcing our focus on kind of Causeway Coastal route, and I think that is one, that is one.
So the answer no.
Aspect of the brand that does kind of resonate with visitors, and we have research that shows there's a really strong awareness of the Causeway Coastal route and everything that's there.
Right,
So
yeah, but I'm just going to stop you. You go back to Mr. Honeyford. So he asked you a simple question: has the request from Tourism Northern Ireland been made? Yes or no is what David's looking for.
Well, as we know that the minister has requested that the brands are extended, and Fáilte's Ireland's agreement to date has been that they've agreed to extend Ireland's and Heartlands. So the broader request is there around extending the brands. Yes.
Okay, so it has been requested.
Yes.
For them. Okay, and the answer is no.
From Fáilte Ireland, yes.
For Fáilte, okay. So the 7.6 million euros, I think it was 7.6 million. I think it was euros, 6.5. I think sterling. What is that? So you've said that's building consistency in the visitor experience. So we're trying to get people across, because our Causeway Coast is incredible, absolutely incredible. In fact, one of the best highlights on the whole Atlantic coast. So to get numbers there, that 6.5 million in sterling, the build constituencies and a visitor experience, what is that 6.5 million for? Just having to double up rather than just having one branding?
So that's so there's three kind of elements to that. So there's the small capital grant scheme, which we touched on earlier, in relation to the experience development projects that have been done on the Causeway Coastal Route and on the Wild Atlantic Way. There's an infrastructure sort of strategy and plan that we're developing that's going to look to enhance the interpretation and I suppose in the stop-off points and the reasons to kind of dwell along the Causeway Coastal Route. And then the final element is a marketing activity, which Michael touched on, in relation to the campaigns that we're doing that Tourism Ireland are doing in GB and elsewhere around the two iconic routes, and how we promote the connectivity between them and the dwell time right across.
Okay, so how much money is spent on the Wild Atlantic Way, and how much money is spent on the Causeway Coast of that budget?
When we market, we market both. We don't segregate unless we get jurisdictional specific funding from one of the sponsor departments. Okay. We market the whole island.
So I mean, in terms of this small capital grant, I mean, I think the overall allocation to the Causeway Coastal Route, I think, was just shy of £1 million, and I think it was 1.25 million euros in Wild Atlantic Way. So there was broad comparability between the funding applied on the Causeway Coastal Route side vis-a-vis the Wild Atlantic Way side.
Well, thank you.
And finally, Patrick.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Am I on? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks. Well, look, thanks for your answer so far. And I suppose for me, to be honest, I think the tone of the questioning today has been really politicised. And I think that's for me, this is not a zero-sum topic. Tourism, something that benefits all our communities. To be honest, if I was a tourist thinking of coming here, I'd be booking a one-way flight in the other direction. So I think it's, from a committee perspective, as a committee member, I have to say it's been really poor. I think this is something that I see benefits of in all our communities, particularly on my own. And I think that we need to be strengthening that and actually talking up the benefits of that collectively. So on that basis, I suppose I have a couple of questions for you. My first one is around the marketing piece, and particularly how you utilize that. For instance, like I'm 29, and for most people my age, I know when we're booking away, when my friends are booking away, what we do is try and book something that we've seen online, and that's something that's typically created by people of our own age from these areas. So I wanted to get a better understanding of that, how that works, what future plans you have in that area, because to me that's a really organic way of growing the market.
Let's start on that and then hand over to you. I suppose, again, thinking in the international and overseas context first, for Tourism Ireland, I mean, the traditional piece when we would have been established, it would have been brochures, would have been traditional media, and times we know have changed. Still, our largest part is consumer advertising. So, our biggest spend in the year would have been the Kickstart campaign around December, January, when people are at home with their families, considering their plans for the next year. So biggest spends in Great Britain and the US, focusing on target markets. So it would have been on people's televisions. But again, considering how things have changed, things are on things like streaming advertising, YouTube, social media. Again, this is part of our mainstream consumer advertising now. Publicity is a significant part where we target journalists, lifestyle media, bring them on the experience, tell them about the product. And then moving on to what we were discussing earlier, influencers, again, this is a new and developing area where people go on Instagram and influencers that they follow influence their consumer choices. And again, this isn't all of the market, but it's a growing section of the market, so it's important. I think the other sort of newer development is generative AI. More and more people use artificial intelligence to decide to explore their holidays or try and put together itineraries for them. And I suppose what we try to do is develop the content that feeds those AI machines. So Ireland.com is our major platform for selling the island of Ireland overseas, our major online platform, and having the content from the local authorities, from the tourism providers, optimized in a certain level on those sites is how we feed AI. And it's something we are working on, but we need to do more work on in the coming year, and it's part of our business plan for the year ahead.
And I can just follow up on that in terms of our marketing activity on the island of Ireland. We have deep research in terms of the visitors who are most likely to come north and who have most interest in coming north on a short break, and also obviously domestic tourism as well. So we fully understand what they want from a short break and actually what media they consume as well. So the media plans are very much then developed in line of how we reach those audiences and what are the key stories and products and attractions that we get out to those. And a key focus of that is especially for the Northern Ireland audience, is dialing up what's new. So unique accommodation, bubble domes, hikes, greenways, local events obviously are very important, and they would feature very strongly in our advertising campaigns. And we would look at video on demand, we would look at Spotify. We recently launched a new podcast series. Colin Davison was the first person out talking about where he likes to go on holidays in Northern Ireland. So a range of new innovative ideas to try and stimulate that reason to book and plan a visit, as you mentioned, with a group of friends or a family or a couple. So we clearly map the media with the visitor and give them the right products in terms of what they want to do on a short break, and then we measure that very, very closely. And similarly with AI, our new Discover Northern Ireland platform is very much built to ensure that we are feeding AI machines with accurate data for the nearly 6,000 tourism businesses that we represent, 77% of which are outside the Belfast City Council area. So we have a really key role to ensure that we're driving demand to these businesses right across in Northern Ireland and sustaining over those 70,000 jobs, because obviously that's, at the end of the day, that's what tourism is supporting.
Just one thing, Chair, that we didn't mention this morning, because we talked about sports tourism and programme funding as well for tourism. Maybe the other thing to reference is screen tourism and really what Screen Northern Ireland does and how we partnership, particularly with Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I think, broadcasting at the moment and broadcasting to a global audience, that showcases Northern Ireland. It's the particular attraction of the Game of Studio tours, but it does market the whole island. So screen tourism is something we monitor as new programmes are developed, what we can link in with and what's suitable to market Northern Ireland globally.
And it's back to that compelling reason to visit. So how, whenever people are coming out of Dublin Airport, how do we get them to turn left and come north, which is what the discussion today has focused on. And, providing those, we have a screen tourism destination map where people can go around in Northern Ireland and see the different locations behind their favourite TV show. Derry Girls has received additional funding through the Coast to Coast programme, which is most welcome. And then How to Get to Heaven from Belfast has given us a really timely opportunity to draw people in to Northern Ireland, and the set jetting is a big trend, with 7 out of 10 visitors wanting to come to see the locations behind their favourite TV shows and movies. So that's absolutely a unique selling point for us.
No, perfect. And look, I'm really glad you've mentioned all that, because this morning I was with our Finance Minister, John O'Dowd, in Derry, and actually engaging with a number of businesses. And I think one of the things about tourism is that it has the ability to actually support those Indigenous businesses, those local businesses, and promote those. So I think the work that's being done is really exciting. I see huge opportunities in it, and I know even quite often I've seen brands that are near our offices in the city centre in Derry, and you're seeing those brands represented right across the country, but actually across the world as well. So I think there's huge potential for growth and for the market to continue growing in those areas. So I want to thank you for your work in that area. And I suppose on that as well, I'm keen to understand just the linking that you would do with the likes of Airbnbs versus hotels versus other sort of accommodation, because I know that we have, obviously in the last 10 years in particular, the nature of stays has changed quite significantly. So I'm keen to get an understanding of where that fits in with your strategies, where that fits in with your marketing, and actually how you work with the myriad of businesses and business types that are out there now.
Yes, I suppose just to kick off on our role, I suppose, in relation to visitor accommodation. I mean, we have sort of, I suppose, 2 or 3 strands to that. So as members are probably aware, if you offer visitor accommodation in Northern Ireland, you're required to be certified by Tourism Northern Ireland, and that involves a physical visit and a real kind of detailed check around ensuring that kind of what you're offering is suitable for visitors. And that then certificate then kind of allows you to operate. We also have a very kind of broad-based scheme which members will be familiar with, where properties are kind of star graded. So that's a sort of 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, and properties within that kind of sort of scheme will range from kind of hotels. We will have self-catering, we'll have kind of B&Bs, and then I suppose sort of kind of linked to that, we're in the process of transferring the functions from Invest in I in relation to the ability to sort of support investment in visitor accommodation, because I think we've seen some really fantastic product kind of come on stream in visitor accommodation, both in terms of some of the significant kind of new hotel developments, but also some of the fantastic emerging kind of sort of bubble domes and some of those kind of real sort of lifestyle kind of accommodation offers that are really kind of very, very new and wouldn't have been envisaged for tourism, maybe 25 or 30 years ago. So I think we do really sort of see that whole sector as showing a lot of innovation, a lot of real entrepreneurialism, and as I say, we're very, very keen to support that, because we know that if we are going to achieve our longer term objective around growing kind of tourism, we're going to have to have a broader range of accommodation, particularly outside of Belfast.
No, thanks for that. And look, I'm going to get really parochial for the last question here.
You're not, Patrick. You would never do that, brother.
Obviously, from a Derry perspective, the largest event that we have each year is the Halloween Festival, and I appreciate it's been touched on already. So there's a huge amount of work and really positive work that's done by both yourselves and our local council. So I want to get an understanding of the roles, I suppose, of your respective organisations in growing that going forward. How you see your role in that, because I know there's obviously a role for Visit Derry, for our council, and for your respective organisations as well. So just how you feed into that and how you see that continuing to grow in the coming years.
Can I start with that one? I guess the Home of Halloween campaign globally is a Tourism Ireland campaign, and it's one we've been running for a number of years. Halloween the island of Ireland is the home of Halloween. It was, I guess, exported to America and Americanized, and then a lot of international people in countries would see it as an American holiday rather than an Irish holiday. So a lot of our marketing is about marketing the activities here and saying that Ireland is the home of Halloween. One of the real values of Home of Halloween for us is the seasonality, because that October-November period, it is a shoulder season for tourism. So for us to get, I mean, in terms of our campaigns, you know, St. Patrick's Day visits, slow tourism in May, you know, June, July, August are peak seasons. We'll do winter seasons, but Home of Halloween is really a way of us to promote in the shoulder season and get international visitors on Ireland, looking at Ireland during that period, that autumn period. So the Derry Halloween is an anchor point on how we market it. It's not the only one. We market and feature events across the island. I mean, again, it's in our consumer marketing. We have familiarisation visits, we have publicity visits in all our markets for Home of Halloween. And I mean, the 40th anniversary this coming year is a major point for us, and again, Derry Halloween will feature prominently.
Yeah, and likewise for sort of tourism NI. So I mean, you know, we touched on earlier the International Tourism Events Fund. So Derry Halloween would have historically, you know, been one of the major beneficiaries of kind of funding, you know, from that funds, you know, recognising the real kind of significant impact, you know, that it delivers both just as an event in its own right, and I think as Michael kind of said, and just in relation to the fact that, you know, it's kind of bringing visitors, you know, to the, to Derry, you know, and the wider kind of NI, you know, and that kind of sort of show the part of the season. And I think we're working very closely with College and Tourism Ireland just around how we sort of, I suppose, develop that as a broader sort of kind of week, or sort of maybe even sort of 10-day kind of sort of itinerary, so that we're really sort of stretching the benefits of the likes of kind of Derry Halloween. And I don't know if Amy wanted to talk about the marketing perspective.
Yeah, so from a marketing point of view, we would absolutely, you know, heavily promote Halloween, but also, you know, a whole Halloween now can be up to a week, with a range of different experiences and events right across, you know, Ulster American Folk Park, national museums, the city and local town celebrations. So for us, it's very much extending this day. It coincides with midterm, so a great opportunity for local people to get out and about and book stays and short breaks around that particular time. So it's not just about one night, it's about, you know, really extending that stay and giving people opportunities to spend.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think that's it. It's the number of people who would you know, contact us, and we would be in contact with it as they visit here, who are staying for longer and longer, and that's something that has to be welcomed as well. And I think that's really thanks to yourselves, to the council and the Visit Derry for the huge body of work that's been put in over that time. So look, just as a city, I suppose, really grateful for that and looking forward to seeing the continued growth, and thanks for your presence here today.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, colleagues, that's everything. Thank you so much for your time and your continued work. The clerk will follow up with some information that members are seeking, but on behalf of the committee, can I thank you all for the dedication and work that you're doing to promote Northern Ireland, both here on the island but internationally as well. Okay, thank you. Okay, colleagues, Peter's just going to summarise some actions. Peter.
So, members, just to clarify on the budget bit first. So the annual report and accounts for Tourism NI will say that their spending is around about 40-some million. 38. And 20-some million of that is going to Tourism Ireland, so it doesn't come directly from the department, it goes through Tourism NI. I just sensed maybe the officials were a little confused by that, but no, the figures are right, that's what it is. So, but we're going to write to TNI and to Tourism Ireland asking them for their budget breakdown for the last 5 years. Also, in terms of social media influencers and the spending on that and what their policy is on perks, etc. Additionally, a breakdown of the hidden heartlands publicity spending, including the social media, and to Tourism NI in particular, around the detail around the major events framework and criteria. So what is a major event that will attract support and what is not? Chairperson, please.
Just on that point, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so obviously the breakdown of social media influencer spend, and inclusive of that, what packages and particularly is on offer. So I think that is the way you've worded that, Peter. And the other one on the International Tourism Events Fund, I would like us to get a breakdown of the last 5 years as to the events that have been funded and the amount for each of them over the course of the last 5 years.
Chairperson. Right.
Could I add in the point about the mobility of EU workers to fill the skills gap?
Yes.
We're right to
What support
tourism. I know what they're doing because it's sorry.
Thank you.
Yep, no, I think that's right. We can check in with the department in terms of their ongoing engagement with the migration task force as well.
Sorry. So go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Sinead.
I still want to dig down into the rationale on Fáilte Ireland, saying they have no plans to extend the licences for the Wild Atlantic Way and Ancient Heartlands, so Ancient East. And I really want to know where this problem lies, and we can't get to the bottom of it. It's like the secret key that we can't find. So we actually need to know what is the problems and why is there such opposition to extending it. And is it about money or value or cost or just a lack of will or a lack of the department here actually pushing it adequately in order to achieve it? So if the rationale and the arguments for the hidden heartlands are true, and I believe that they are, and very much welcome, then why is the same arguments not been pushed forward? And what is the role in the North-South Ministerial Council in delivering this? We are spending a lot of money in tourism, and there's a collective of organisations doing really, really good work, but there's a lack of joined up approach in some of these brands, and it just seems absolute total madness.
Just on a point of factual accuracy, did I misread? I thought in AQWs, or maybe the minister actually said that isn't Fáilte Ireland looking into, they're doing some work on Ancient East, and they were doing some
rebranding. They're researching whether to rebrand Ancient East. Yeah. Or to change the brand of Ancient.
So on that point, I think the committee can again correspond with Fáilte Ireland just to say, we thank them for the written evidence, but it remains the position of the committee that we're still keen to hear from them.
Absolutely.
And if they don't want to, if they could articulate why they don't want to, and that might be the easiest way to get that out of them.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And just wanted to build a request for information that Johnny had made on the social influencers. I'd be keen to understand how that engage with procurement rules, where you're, putting out for
accountants joined the committee.
No, it's just interesting. How much are you spending? Are you just picking a particular influencer? How are you assessing value for money and actually satisfying the government procurement rules around that?
Further to
sorry,
Ms. Forsyth's earlier point, we'll also write to the department about their engagement with in respect of Carlingford Ferry and how they're going to work better with district councils to link to their web pages.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, and then two final points for me. One is just that we would encourage the department to get the first destination stewardship plan out the door as soon as possible. And then Sinead or Padraig, was there any further information you wanted in relation to Tourism NI's ongoing review with Visit Derry?
Like where is it?
Yeah, okay.
That would be a start.
Yeah.
And
That,
and then, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, Padraig, sorry.
Kate.
I just want to say I don't want to demonize influencers because I think it's a new part of marketing and a lot of people are earning a living that way. But I think it would be interesting to see. I'm interested in procurement for sure, and the amount of money, especially when you compare to what it's invested in other things. But I just don't want to demonize people who have that as a job which is being used. Just to add on to Sinead's point, I mean, you can write to Fáilte. They've been written to many times and they haven't come. I would be minded. I actually think I was really disrespectful. You made it very clear, and it was in the diary for a really long time, and they chose not to come. I would be minded to write to the minister for the department with which they sit under and say that actually, as a committee, we're really disappointed in this. And if we're trying to market the island as a whole, which we know is beneficial for everyone, then we actually need this information. So I think they've been really discourteous, and I think we do need to know the answer. And I wouldn't have any faith that we would necessarily get one back if we did right.
Particularly when they're working in a collaborative way with Tourism NI, and for us to actually scrutinise the work, we need to see them.
Yeah.
They provided a paper, but there was questions everywhere around that paper that we.
1 second, I'm going to go to Padraig. He has his hand up. Padraig.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And look, totally agree with Kate's suggestion there. That had been exactly what I was going to come in and say. Was that we should actually take it out of the request out of being with Fáilte Ireland. I do think that we should write to them again, asking for clarification on why not offering a separate date, but in the event that that isn't responded to by a date that we set, that we then go to the minister. I think I think there should be a process in that we do that first and then go to the minister. Just on the influencer point as well, I mean, I get what people are saying, but I do think we need to be a bit cautious because it is a new type of branding, it's a new type of marketing. And I think with all of this, with tourism, with all these other sort of sectors that we're looking at as well, the financial return is one aspect of it, you know, and I think it's very, very hard to measure the impact if we only look at the finance. So absolutely, you know, let's get the financial understanding or the impact assessment done. But I think we have to be conscious in that it is an emerging field, but also that the impact goes well beyond financial. So I think if we're going to ask them for that, that's fair enough. But let's ask them for the other benefits and the other metrics that they use as well, because I'm conscious that that could actually blur our thinking rather than clarify it.
Makes sense. Thank you, Padraig. Anyone else?
Just to elaborate on the 2 points, it's not to demonise anybody, and I think we have to remember that there are tourism providers that are really struggling at the moment, particularly what was to happen in the reval put a lot of pressure on a lot of them, and it exposed a lot of the vulnerabilities within that industry. And for many of them, you know, they're rightly asking the question, the spend from Tourism NI to bring visitors into their locations, is that money being well spent? You know, what is the offering beyond essential free stay and benefits accumulated on stay, but what is the cost associated? The other point that Kate raised, and I think it's a good one, about Fáilte and their engagement. Like, Fáilte sit under Tourism Ireland's remit at the North-South Ministerial Council. You know, they meet with the Minister and those representatives at that body. I think there is an onus on Tourism Ireland as well to bring Fáilte to the table to discuss with us, because we are contributing to that organisation. So there is a bigger conversation space there. I tended to find that, as polite as they were, there was very little answers to some of those questions on facts, figures, responsibilities and interactions. And I think, you know, those I don't count them as difficult questions. If you come before a scrutiny committee, you know, those are bare minimum in my opinion, just my opinion on it.
Okay, colleagues, that's a useful discussion. Are we all agreed on those then? Yeah.
So we're not writing to the Minister.
No, we'll write to them and give them one more opportunity. With that, members, and apologies to officials for keeping them waiting. Our members' content, we have a short recess before we begin with the renewable obligations amendments. Members agreed?
Okay, we just push the button there. Somebody. Bear with us.
Number 8, SL1, the Renewable Obligation Amendment, Northern Ireland Order 2026. Oral evidence. The Department intends to lay a statutory rule. The Renewable Obligation Amendment Order Northern Ireland. The rule is subject to draft affirmative procedure. The SL1 and draft SR were published on the committee webpage, and a short call for views from stakeholders was undertaken. No responses were received. Can I welcome officials from the department if they want to give some evidence to the committee on this? Okay, very welcome.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Littis, hi.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I thought
Apologies.
we kept you waiting. Don't worry.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about the proposed amendment to the Renewables Obligation Order Northern Ireland 2009. My name is Zoe Crowe, Head of Onshore Renewable Electricity, and with me is Colin McCulloch, who leads on the NIRO policy within our team. So the Northern Ireland Renewables Obligation, or NIRO, scheme has incentivised renewable electricity generation here since 2005 through a UK-wide system of tradable green certificates called Renewable Obligation Certificates, or ROCs. 3 separate but complementary renewable obligation schemes cover the UK, with Ofgem acting as the administrator for all 3 schemes. So we have NIRO here in Northern Ireland, we have the Renewable Obligation Scheme in England and Wales, and in Scotland, the Renewable Obligation Scotland. All 3 schemes currently use RPI as the measure of inflation. However, RPI is now considered a flawed measure. The UK Statistics Authority have removed RPI's designation as a national statistic, and it will be discontinued from February 2030. A joint government's consultation was issued in October, seeking views and proposing options to change how the buyout price of the RO schemes is adjusted for inflation. The response to the consultation was published in January and confirmed the proposal to move from RPI to CPI as a measure of inflation across all 3 schemes from April this year. The proposed amendment, the Renewables Obligation Amendment Order Northern Ireland 2026, is now required to enable that change. Equivalent amendments are being made concurrently to the Renewable Obligation Scheme in England and Wales and the Renewable Obligation Scotland scheme in Scotland. And the proposed amendment has been consulted on and the relevant impact assessments completed. The draft SR is required to follow the draft affirmative procedure and will require Assembly debate and consideration before enactment. So in summary, making these changes to the way that the RO schemes are adjusted for inflation will bring the schemes into line with best practice and maintain regulatory parity, as well as reducing overall scheme costs whilst maintaining fair payments to the accredited generators. So thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to present, and we're happy to address any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Zoe, do colleagues have any questions? Jonathan?
So thank you very much. So in theory, this is regularising this across the UK,
Yes.
England, Scotland, Wales. On option 2, what would have been the costs associated?
Costs to...
So cost to the public purse in terms of the freezing out, the buyout, and bringing in a shadow price from 2022. What's the cost differential between option 1 and option 2?
I don't have the figures purely because they're modelled and there's so many variables in the cost. But from the consultation and from the information, it was clear that of the potential negative impact of option 2. So by supporting...
What was that?
Potential negative impacts on option 2 in terms of both the choice of option 1 allowed us to support affordability but also retaining an inflation linkage, and hopefully that strengthens investor confidence as well as allowing us to apply an accepted measure.
Did consultation responses largely indicate which of those options they would want to pursue?
There was the majority of respondents were hesitant about both options because there is an impact, but there was a clear differential in option 2 was a much less preferred option.
Okay.
Okay, colleagues, have no other questions on that, so thank you very much indeed. I appreciate that. Okay, members, so as you've heard from officials from the department, this brings Northern Ireland parity with the rest of the United Kingdom and also adopts best practice. Members have any questions on that? If not, could I put to the committee that the committee is content for the department to make the proposed rule? Is that agreed? Okay, thank you. Then move to item number 9, SR 17/2026, Disqualified Director Order. The Department has laid a statutory rule, SR 17/2026, Disqualified Directors Compensation Order Fees Order Northern Ireland 2026. The rule will be subject to affirmative resolution procedure and will come into effect following a debate and vote in the Assembly. I refer to the members to Clerk's covering note at page 160. The Small Business Enterprise and Employment Act 2015 allows the Department to apply to the Court for an order requiring a disqualified director to compensate creditors for losses incurred as a result of the conduct for which he or she was disqualified. The above Act also requires disqualified directors to pay an amount to the Department for the benefit of creditors. The Department must then distribute the compensation award to creditors, which is done by the Insolvency Service. The SR enables the Department to charge a fee for distributing the compensation award to creditors. The fee is paid out of the sums received prior to any payment being made to the creditors. It is calculated on the basis of time spent by staff. The hourly rates are set out in a schedule with the regulations. The Department advises that this matches arrangements in England and Wales in place since 2016. The committee considered the SL1 on the 10th of December and had no objections to the rule. Do members have any questions? No, if not, then I put to the committee that the Committee for the Economy has considered SR 17/2026, the Disqualified Directors Compensation Order Fees Order Northern Ireland 2026, and subject to the report of the ESR recommends it be affirmed by the Assembly. Is that agreed? Thank you, colleagues. We then move to item number 10, Parental Bereavement Leave and Pay Miscarriage Regulations Northern Ireland 2026. The Department has laid a statutory rule, SR... Have they numbered it yet?
No, they won't number it because it's draft. So this is in tabled items, members, at page 28.
Okay. Yep. So the Parental Bereavement Leave and Pay Miscarriage Regulation Northern Ireland 26. The rule would be subject to draft affirmative procedure and will come into effect following debate and vote in the Assembly. The Act requires that the miscarriage leave provisions are commenced by the 6th of April. Officials briefed on the proposed rule on the 28th of January. The statutory rule introduces a new criterion of entitlement for parental bereavement leave and pay on the grounds of miscarriage as specified in the regulations, and ensures that eligible employees who are entitled to parental bereavement pay on the grounds of miscarriage are afforded the same entitlements as those who are entitled on the grounds of child death or stillbirth. The committee considered feedback to a call for views and the related SL1 on the 18th of February 2026 and had no objection to the rule. Members have any questions? No. If I put to the committee then that the Committee for the Economy has considered SR 000/2026, the Parental Bereavement Leave and Pay Miscarriage Regulations Northern Ireland 2026, and subject to the report of the ESR recommends that it's affirmed by the Assembly. Is that agreed? Colleagues, can I just thank members for their work on this, the Department and the Minister. I think this is a really welcome change and important that these regulations will now be laid before the Assembly and hopefully affirmed and puts Northern Ireland in a leading position across the world in terms of providing much needed support to those who have the unfortunate issue of miscarriage. So can I thank colleagues for all their important work on this and to the Department for their work on this. Okay, with that then, members, I'm going to move to correspondence. So an index of the correspondence is at page 1 at page 169 of the meeting pack. Item 2 at page 171. Members are asked to note a departmental response contending that the committee did not formally seek the minutes of the Cantor Fitzgerald meeting. So those minutes, or that letter from the Minister dated the 20th of February is available for members. So if I just start on this, and not to have a protracted debate, but unfortunately the letter from the Minister is just factually incorrect. So I had a look at the minutes of the evidence session with the Permanent Secretary and the Minister, and it reads as follows. Mr Snowden stated in a response to a question from Mr Buckley that the committee should be furnished with reasons provided so that we can ascertain its reasoning for not investing in Northern Ireland. Mr Snowden then responded, "We will get the record of the meeting." So he agreed to provide the record of the meeting. In the letter provided by the Dallo, or to the Dallo on the 23rd of January, it clearly states clarification on the Cantor investment decision, including the provision of all Invest Northern Ireland and departmental records of the relevant engagements are requested by the committee. So the letter from the Minister, entitled to review but not entitled to her own facts, the committee has on 2 separate occasions requested that. The Permanent Secretary committed to providing that to the committee. So I think it's just important to state for a matter of fact and a matter of record that the contention from the Minister that the committee did not request that is factually incorrect. Jonathan.
Thanks, Chair. And look, I'm not going to labour further on that point. I've asked questions. I'm continuing to do so through FOI because I wasn't satisfied with the response that we did receive. But I don't think anybody that was at this committee, whether you agree or disagree with the points that I was making, could argue that we didn't clearly state to the Permanent Secretary that we expected the minutes of this meeting to come before this committee. And the fact that following that committee meeting on the Wednesday, on the Thursday, that meeting note was provided to the BBC, and on the Friday was provided to this committee. That is the point of which our correspondence went to the Minister, and I think it's incredibly disingenuous to state that, calling into account actually the professionalism of this committee and indeed the clerk who wrote to the Dallo was actually in attendance at the meeting, and the Permanent Secretary himself. So I have no point to labour that any further. I'll continue with those FOI approaches to gain further information, but I just wanted that on record that I think that was inappropriate, that reply from the Department.
Patrick.
Yeah, well, look, I think the comments that were made about the Minister are very disrespectful. And actually, you know, to try and say that the Minister has misled or provided false facts, as you said, to this committee, I think that's disingenuous, and I think that's very disrespectful, to be honest, and I would ask for that comment to be withdrawn. On this issue, I mean, you've obviously gone down the FOI route, that's fine, but for me, this does call into question the broader element of, are we going to try and go through every single meeting that the department have had with investors? I also think that for investors looking on and listening to this, other investors are going to be scared away by the fact that they'll be thinking, is every meeting note that they had going to be called into this committee? I mean, how far back are we going to go to this? Are we going to go through 10 years or 15 years of DUP ministers in the department? What do we want to do here? Because for me, you know, there's an FOI process. If you want to follow that, what you've done now, I think that's fine. You know, members are entitled to do that. But if we're going to look at this as a committee, I think that that is a very, very risky strategy to take, in that it will potentially impact other prospective investors. And I think it's the wrong strategy for this committee to be taken. So, you know, I think we need to close this matter here. But I do think that the comments about the minister are deeply disrespectful, and I think they should be withdrawn.
Okay, thank you, Padraig. So just to clarify and reiterate what I said, so the ministerial letter addressed to me states, I want to clarify the position regarding the materials supplied by the department. The committee did not make a specific request for the minutes, either at the committee session on the 21st of January or by submitting a written request, as would be standard practice. That is factually incorrect. The minutes of the meeting show that Mr. Snowden made a commitment that he would get a record of the meeting to this committee. A copy of the letter sent by this committee to the department stated clearly that clarification was requested and that all departmental records of the relevant engagements. So for the Minister to claim that there was no request is factually incorrect. And I think it does call into question what this committee has requested, and it's spelt out in black and white. So I think it's important, Padraig, that I set out as chair of this committee that there was a request made. The Minister does not have to answer that request, that's a matter for her. But if she's going to say that we didn't make the request, it's factually incorrect. But I'll let you back in there, sir.
My issue is the tone in which it's been said. My issue is the fact that it's deeply disrespectful to a minister to suggest that she has deliberately misled this committee. And that's what I believe is being done here. If you want to question the facts, that's fine. That's totally, you know, your prerogative, and I have no issue with that. But what I do have issue with is the tone that you're taking towards the minister, and to suggest that she has deliberately misled or provided facts, which are, you know, you're saying are inaccurate to this committee. I think that's disrespectful, and it's the tone and that I take issue with on this.
Thank you, Padraig. Diane?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I just think that, just to pick up on what Padraig said, he'd said earlier that he didn't appreciate that he felt that things were a bit politicised, whereas now he's just made this quite politicised and referring to specific ministers and past ministers. Just my experience in other committees, to give the committee their place, it's a regular enough thing that I've seen where these private meetings can be held, that, you know, this could have been dealt with in closed session by this committee. So I don't think that it's fair comment to say that this committee shouldn't be scrutinising the minister and asking for meeting notes where appropriate, because I think there's plenty of forums in place, and I've had it in other committees where things have been dealt with in closed session. And I just think that it's, you know, I know it's my first day at this committee, but I wouldn't like to think that something was being closed down here as a form of scrutiny.
Is there any other colleague that wants back in? If not, I'll bring you back in again, sir. Padraig?
Yeah, no, my issue is, where does this end? Because, I mean, if we're going to start in a conversation around looking at every committee, at every meeting with investors, at every meeting that's been had over time, I don't think there's anything political on that. I think the politicisation was actually the fact that there was a disagreement from the DUP with the minister's position around Palestine and around the genocide that's going on in Palestine. That was sought to be politicised within this committee, and I think that that was fundamentally wrong. So what I'm asking is, I don't believe that this committee is an appropriate space to be bringing those politics in, and I do think that it sets a bad precedent. So that's my point, is that I think if that precedent is to be set now, that calls into question, are we going to start looking at other meetings with investors and questioning all of those? So I do think it sets a false precedent going forward, and I think that that's a bad position for a committee that's, yes, a scrutiny committee, but also has the role of trying to improve and increase the economic potential of this region, to actually be challenging investors and going after individual investors. I think that's a really worrying place for this committee.
Okay. Well, I would contend that we're not challenging investors, we're challenging
Correct.
the Minister and her assertion that this committee didn't request information when it did. But with that, colleagues, we're going to move on. But It's a matter of record what was requested and what wasn't. So if we go to item number 3, is the committee content to note AQs which appear to suggest that there will be no strategy in this mandate, as the department's focus will be on results in relation to clustering strategy? Members content to note. Item 4 again is for noting, is a copy of correspondence from the Committee for Environment, Agriculture and Rural Affairs. Members content to note.
Sure, on that point,
yes, sir.
I think because it does show a further breakdown down the correspondence regarding the sectors affected by that, but I read that the Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs Committee were almost looking us to join with them in trying to pursue those individual figures. If that hasn't been made clear, I'm happy for the committee to join with the committee in trying to ascertain the sector specific breakdown on that regard.
Members content? Okay, thank you. We then move to item 5, which is confirmation from the Department of Finance. The department is required to produce 5-year sustainability plans. Is the committee content to write this as a copy of those? Thank you. Item 6, members are asked to note a copy of SR 2623. Members content to note. Thank you. Item 7 is correspondence from Belfast Works providing information on the local growth fund. Members content to forward the correspondence to the department for comment. Okay. Item 8, members are asked to consider correspondence from a number of Fermanagh-based businesses to request the committee's support for the establishment of a Fermanagh Chamber of Commerce. Is the committee content to forward the correspondence to the department for comment? Gemma, is there anything you want to say on this?
No, Chair, just that I've received the same correspondence and have requested or have agreed to a meeting with the group as well.
Perfect. So if we forward on to the department, then we can go back to the individuals. Members content with that? Okay, thank you. Item 9, members are asked to note correspondence from Alma White. Members content to note? Thank you. Are there any questions on the correspondence? If not, forward works programme. Peter.
So members, next week we're in Foyle, and if members could advise me if they are intending to attend. So the idea is that, sorry, no we're not.
No, we're
no, we're absolutely not. Sorry. Better, good idea to actually look at the forward work programme. So next week, what we're in fact going to have is the department telling us about the mid-term energy strategy review and hopefully their updated energy action plan. Now this week we'd hope to hear from the Hotels, Hospitality Ulster, Hotels Federation, etc. and Food to Go on the economic impact of reval. If members are content, we'll reschedule that for this week. And Retail NI have asked to come along as well. If members are content with that, we will just get this important issue aired. Very good. Members happy with that one.
So the other ones are coming as well, Peter, yeah?
Yeah, Retail NI. Yeah, so it would be Hospitality Ulster, Hotels Federation, Food to Go and Retail NI.
Perfect. Perfect.
So we'll do that if members are content now. So as I was about to say, the week after then, the 11th of March, we're in Timberkey, which is part of the extended McGee campus, hearing about the McGee Task Force update, also hearing about the Enhanced Investment Zone. Not sure we're going to hear about the Local Innovation Partnership Fund, but we will hear the other two, and that probably will be enough. And then we'll go off to Seagate at lunchtime for a visit. Looking ahead then, right, there was one of the important points that members wanted to talk about was student mobility and the coordination of results day as a way of student mobility and around exam equivalency. So in terms of exam equivalency, so the issue there I think was Republic of Ireland, some of the universities do not recognise our A-levels and so make it difficult for our students to go there. There is a project underway involving the Irish Universities Association and the Technological Universities Association, and they are hopefully willing to come on the 15th of April to talk about that. So that would be about recognising that what are they going to do to recognise the validity of our qualifications. The other bit of that, the other side of that coin, is the coordination and timing of results day. Now that sits between the State Examination Commission in the Republic of Ireland and the JCQ, the Joint Council for Qualifications in Northern Ireland. So hopefully we'll try and get them on the same day. So it isn't actually CAO or UCAS who do
examination body.
Yeah, it's examination bodies. So they don't determine when results day is. It's actually those bodies which we'll hear from if members are content with that. Mr. Delargy.
Mr. I had this raised with me actually in relation to the A level and that in the Republic of Ireland and its compatibility. I understand actually the Minister of Education is doing a piece of work on this in contact with Republic of Ireland educational officials. It may be good to write to him to ask, because it will probably help inform a lot of what potentially the questions would be.
Right to our Minister of Education?
Yes, asking for details of what way negotiations are or conversations in relation to that specific issue.
Mr. Doherty.
Patrick?
Yeah, well, no issue with that, and I would take that and add to that actually, and ask that we do the same with the Minister in the South as well, because I think it would give us a more whole picture of exactly what's being done around that. So absolutely, open to that proposal. The other thing that I would say is, there's obviously a debate on this next Monday, I think it is, in the Assembly and the Chamber. So I'm sure other members will be contributing to that as well, around All Ireland education. But for me going forward with this, I think one of the other things that we miss perhaps, and I can't remember, I think I've mentioned it before, but I do think that we should probably invite NUS into this conversation as well, because I'm conscious that this is impacting students, and if we don't have the voice of students in the room, then really, we're just getting into the technicalities of it. So I think it's actually important to hear from the experience of students themselves, how that's impacted them, because in other committees sometimes we have, the statutory bodies one week, people impacted the next week, and there's not that consistency. So I just think to have them both in at the same time would be really useful. And I would like that if the invitation could be also extended to NUS. But back to the previous point, I agree with Johnny's proposal, but I think we should do it to both ministers.
Chair, I think we've actually written to the Minister of Education in the Republic of Ireland, and we're waiting a response because we'd asked about this one before. So if members are content, we'll extend an invitation to NUS USI. Yeah. Come along, Johnny, that's great, lovely. And Northern Ireland Chamber and childcare providers, they've asked to come in at the end of April because they're doing stuff. I think a lot of people are in Brussels, I understand, for various reasons. So we'll see about rescheduling Great British Energy. They've agreed to come. We haven't agreed to date with them yet, but that was around the issue of their Great British Energy's Northern Ireland action plans and community energy projects and that good stuff. I've also, members, just briefly in terms of bills. Utility regulator bill, I understand it's got through the executive. I would anticipate that will be introduced shortly. So I would think we would probably be actually taking evidence on that, actually hearing from people maybe around May, June time. Then there's the onshore petroleum licensing bill, which is at the executive shortly. So I imagine we might be taking evidence around about the same time on that one. So that's our May, June calendar, looking a bit full. In terms of the employment bill, again, the members mentioned that earlier, but let's say that it got through the executive at Easter, around about Easter, then again, we would probably need to take a little while to allow, because it is such a big bill, to allow the call for evidence to work through. So we might be just about taking evidence on that end of June, start of July, but then more into September with a view to finishing at Halloween. I've also asked Assembly Engagement to do a wee bit of work on that. They're going to come and brief us after Easter about just hearing from other voices around the Good Jobs Bill, because we noted previously that some of the representative organisations, when you went to some parts of Northern Ireland, they weren't represented or didn't feel represented by those representative organisations. So there may be a piece around an event in hopefully Parliament buildings, maybe somewhere else, on the Good Jobs Bill. Okay, of course, subject to it getting through second stage, but I'm just planning that so that, I anticipate we'll be up against it in terms of the time, that we will definitely invite the usual suspects in to talk about the bill, but we may have to be clever about who we discuss to make sure that we hear from lots of different groups in order to inform the committee's understanding of said bill. So that's my thinking right now, that the committee's dance card will be full on May, June, September, October, November. Then maybe around about Halloween time, we might have time to take the renewable electricity price guarantee scheme bill. When the other bills will fit in, that will be interesting. But so that's sort of what I'm thinking, and I'll come to you with more detail on that when I know it. So if members are content with the forward work programme as amended.
Members content?
Chair, obviously I have the regional balance bill, and we're working on our first draft at the minute. So
Keep some space in the diary.
So just be aware it's on its way, hopefully.
Okay, but just to be aware, members, that so we all know this, we're going to be up against it from after Easter right round to the end of the mandate, when additional meetings may be required and much longer meetings may be required, and all of your other committees will be saying the same thing to you. So there we go.
Okay.
On that note.
Has any colleague any other business they wish to raise at this stage? If not, we will recommence here next week at 10 a.m. Colleagues, thank you very much for your attendance, and the committee will now adjourn.